Yeah, you see that video, you're like, no, that can't be me anymore.
Terry was fine, though.
He was fine. And he got a lot of merchandise out of it.
No doubt. Haktua and Terry. Back it up, Terry. Oh, Lord.
Talk about the combo we didn't know we needed.
Right, that's exactly right. It's what America needs right now is a combination of Terry backing it up and Haktua, who's now going to start selling her own official merchandise. You see the statement she made on social media. She wanted to let everybody know she is not going to have an OnlyFans, so stop asking. And any merchandise that's out there right now has nothing to do with her. She has not made a dime off of this, but she will start selling merchandise very soon. So she'll let us all know when the official Haktua merchandise can be available, Sterling, for you to purchase.
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Why me?
I'm just saying, just in general, she doesn't have social media, but she's going to start having social media. You know.
So then all those people who are just fake Haktua accounts.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
All the Haktua accouns. So, she's very annoyed by that.
Will the real Haktua please stand up?
Yes.
Tugavaloa.
Tavalioa. Okay.
Tugavaloa.
Very good. Dylan, you have a good weekend, man?
Oh, yeah. Just an apartment pool party, and that's about it, man. Just the pretty casual, and it's right down the street, too. I only had to take like 2 blocks.
Very good.
Perfect day.
That's,
no fireworks either, but
hey.
I heard a lot of them, of course.
You know what? I was right in line with you guys with no fireworks until I had kids. And then now it's not necessarily fireworks, but we get the parachutes. A lot of snakes, or as the kids like to call them, poop. Because, it grows and it does look like poop.
It does.
Growing. Some smaller things. Obviously the snaps. No like firecrackers or bottle rockets or anything like that. We do the craziest thing we'll really do is like a Roman candle, and that's it. And then we'll set up like a target in the street, and then try to hit the target with the Roman candle. That's really it. if you're gonna set off the Roman candle, might as well do something fun with it. You just point it straight ahead down the street, no cars or anything. Set up a little target and see if you can hit it. That was the fun for us, and all the parachutes. And that's what we have. Parachutes snaps,
are fun.
The worms or snakes, whatever they're called.
Did you shoot your Roman candles at the parachutes?
No, we did not. That would be crazy. That's a great idea. Next time we will do that.
Yeah.
That's a really good idea.
That's a good
idea, dude. That is awesome. Yeah, we only had we get one parachute that has the actual Army man on it.
Yeah,
and the one parachute with the actual Army man.
See, that's the only reason you would want to, if you're just shooting the parachute.
They like to go and catch, like all the kids running and going and catch the kids.
Do you
in the
mean
neighborhood.
you? Are you kid?
No, I set off to see the kids running. The one Army man launches wind gust as it's in the air. Roof.
Oh, man.
The one Army man is on the roof across the street. One freaking Army. Some of them went in the trees, like whatever, those things happen.
All right, kids, get a ladder,
Here we
and
go.
while you're up there, get some gloves on and
Here we
start
go.
doing some leafing out of the gutters.
Yes, that's right. A lot of people we knew went to the Royals game because, how often were they at home last year too? Like, I don't remember. It was sold out though, man. It was a great crowd Thursday night. It was an awesome crowd Thursday night. An unfortunate loss, but it was an awesome crowd still. And the drone show and the fireworks and all of that stuff. So that was cool. We had a lot of friends that go out to Thursday night, and then Corporate Woods and all of that stuff got moved to Friday. So it was a fun weekend for us, relaxing weekend. And now Sterling and I get ready for Tahoe this week. We leave today. We'll be broadcasting live from Lake Tahoe, the American Century Championship. American Century, fantastic Kansas City company. Year number 26 that they have been the title sponsor for this tournament. And we'll be there tomorrow through Friday broadcasting and different interviews. And we'll see who stops by and we get a chance to talk to, etc. Throughout the week. So fun weekend on into Tahoe. And then next Tuesday, the Chiefs report to training camp.
Well, what's fun is you guys get to really listen in and see my emotion level, how the last night went every single show, because we're staying at a casino.
Yeah, that's right.
So every single day, you'll hear me in the morning being either thrilled or just completely dejected.
Just giving you a heads up, though, in case you didn't know, Tahoe is 2 hours behind us, and so our show starts at 8 in the morning. Just as a heads up, on however you can stay out late however you want, but party hard, play hard, just as long as you're going to answer the bell the next morning. That's all I'm saying.
I'm a grinder.
Hey, that's fine.
I'm a grinder.
That's fine. If that's the app you use, I don't care. Whatever it is that you show up to the work the next day, and you're ready to go, ready to fire on all cylinders. We're gonna get this thing rolling. So I just want to make sure that there's a preemptive heads up that the show is from 8 to noon out there.
Oh.
Yeah, just so you know, it's not 2 hours ahead. It's not noon to 4.
That means 2 a.m. is just midnight.
That's exactly right.
That's the translation.
It's a great way to view it. That's an absolute great way to view it. That's the way I would view it.
According to the Pythagorean theorem, I believe.
Yep, pi. According to pi, 3 dot, midnight.
3.1415.
3.12:00 a.m. equals 2:00 a.m. CST. Royals playing like CRAP, at least offensively, over the weekend against the Rockies. Was yesterday... So I am weighing this scale that's going back and forth in my emotions from yesterday, just in general, the Royals offense. There's a part of me that's like, okay, exhaling, they didn't get swept by the Rockies. And then there's sort of the angel devil. Then there's the other side that's going, man, it's almost more annoying that they scored 10 runs yesterday and they couldn't do anything for 2 days. And they didn't have to score 10 runs to sweep the series. They just didn't need to be ass. I mean, if they were just generic on Friday and Saturday, they sweep the series. If they're close to what they look like on Sunday, they sweep the series. Instead, they sit 2-4 in the last 2 series against the A's and Rockies. They lose the A's series, and they lose the series against the Rockies, and no more talk about, well, the schedule lightens up here, or the schedule lightens up there, or, they got this team and that. I don't know if mentality lightens up for them. I don't know if they were swinging for the fences because it was Colorado. Whatever it was, they were bad on Friday and Saturday against the worst pitching staff in Major League Baseball by like a run. Both the starters and the bullpen. Leading the league in blown saves. Bullpen ERA the worst. Starting ERA the worst. And the Royals go and score 3 runs in 2 days. So I don't know if I'm exhaling that, at least they avoided the sweep and total disaster. It was still embarrassing. Like, I still think it was an embarrassing weekend for the Royals.
Yes.
But there's a part of me that's also, like, annoyed that they bust out the bats in one game that they didn't need the 10 runs. They needed those runs on Friday and Saturday.
Twofold, too. Curtis is always saying it's not a great trait to have that you're great at avoiding the sweep.
Yeah.
And then also, it's a ballpark that invites offensive baseball as well. So it's kind of a double, bad.
Well, it's funny. David Lesky wrote on his preview of the Rockies series, and he says, quote, this was before they go to, and this was coming off that Tampa Bay 10-8 loss on Thursday, so Friday morning. Now the Royals finished their pre-break schedule on the road, starting with 3 in Colorado. If you want the offense to keep their confidence up, they're headed to the right place. Rockies pitching staff, dead last in ERA, all of baseball by nearly a full run. Amazingly, in spite of their home field, they are only tied for 6th in home runs allowed. Their strikeout rate is 16.6%. It's the lowest in baseball by almost 3%. Their walk rate is the 6th highest in baseball. And the 3 games the 2 teams will play are all in Coors Field. There's a double-edged sword here. It's a spot to get right, but it's also a spot that if you don't, it can feel pretty rough. So which side of the sword? You feel like they got right yesterday? Or it's an pretty rough. They scored 3 runs the first 2 games.
I think you don't walk away from this series in Denver feeling great about a 10-1 win. I will say that if you are going to avoid a sweep and you're going to win the finale, you might as well win it like that. Not like the way they did in Oakland where it took...
Well, they won aggregate scoring. They outscored the Rockies.
They outscored them by like 5 runs, I think it was.
Yeah, it was 5.
I think the frustrating part of this was that it was a complete missed opportunity. I mean, Boston went into the Bronx and took care of business. They took 2 of 3. And the Royals take 1 of 3 from a awful baseball team. And you had your 2 aces for Friday and Saturday, both Reagans and Lugo, both pitched well enough to win those games, and the offense couldn't score off Kyle Freeland, though his ERA was inflated a bit because his first start of the year he gave up 10 runs, and then after that he was okay, got hurt. So the 7+ ERA wasn't good, but he'd actually pitched better over his last 3 or 4 starts. On Saturday, it was Austin Gomber. Again, when he's throwing 91 miles an hour and you're in that altitude.
Pedro Martinez, Austin Gomber.
Yeah, I mean, it was frustrating to watch, and I almost wonder that when this team faces a pitcher like that, faces a team like this, they feel more pressure the deeper it gets into the game because they're going, man, it's the 5th inning, we've got no runs. It's the 6th inning, we only have 2 runs. And we saw that on Friday and on Saturday. Now, the flip side is, this is professional baseball. Sometimes awful teams can beat teams that are much better than them. You go back to last year, the Royals swept the Astros in September at Minute Maid Park when the Astros were going for a playoff spot. Earlier this year, Colorado beat the Phillies in Colorado, and I think in 2 of the Phillies' losses, they scored 2 runs apiece. Cleveland lost their series in Colorado. So it can be...
Why are you bringing up stuff that makes it sound like it's not that bad for the Royals to go there and lose 2 or 3?
Jack.
Yeah, come on, Jack.
But it should be... You should look at the Royals in a different lens than Philadelphia and Cleveland because those 2 teams have unbeatable records right now.
Yeah.
I mean, they're 20-plus games over 500. They can afford losing a series to a terrible team like that. The Royals in this spot, you've now put immense pressure on this week because you have St. Louis in St. Louis, and then you have Boston.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't take care of business in St. Louis or at least split, and Boston's got the A's, by the way, before Kansas City, you could look up at the All-Star break and all of a sudden you're 4.5, 5.5 games back, and you have a mountain to climb in the second half.
Yeah, Gomer, to his credit, or to the Royals' defense, in his previous 6 starts, going back to June 2nd, he had 3 innings, 3 earned runs, 5 innings, 4 earned runs, 3 innings, 8 earned runs, 6 innings, 4 earned runs, 5 innings, 5 earned runs, 6 innings, 4 earned runs, before the 7 innings and 1 run against the Royals. So he was due.
He was due.
He was
due to have a dominant performance where he walked nobody and gave up only 1 earned run and 6 base runners in 7 innings. He was due after getting shelled by the Dodgers, by the Cardinals, by the Twins, by the Dodgers, by the Astros, and by the Brewers, to the tune of a 11 ERA over that span. And then he was just due to throw just some BBs up there for 7 innings.
Well, you get 9 base runners. You have 9 base runners. You score 1 run. And it was a solo shot that really didn't matter. You know how frustrating that is?
Oh, it's incredibly frustrating.
I mean, like you're playing in Coors.
Yeah.
Well, you can't score? You can't?
Yeah. The home run mattered at the time.
Sure.
Because it was the 6th
3-1. It made it 3-1.
Right,
yes,
but it was still
nice.
the 6th
I
inning,
get
so
it.
you still had 3 innings against their crap bullpen.
My
thought.
My point is, you're just sitting here going,
I'm with you.
And it feels like all those glorious runners and scoring position numbers early on in the season, they're a thing of the past. Like, it feels like when the guy on third, less than 2 outs, it's a strikeout, it's a pop-up, it's a weak grounder that a guy can't get home on. That's what feels like is happening right now. You'll get guys on. I mean, the Royals, nice. Hunter Renfroe, 3 hits, including a double. Didn't score. Like, Bobby Witt Jr. gets on. Michael gets, doesn't score. Doesn't matter. And that's what that 10-1 game I just get so frustrated with because it's like, I'm more along the lines of, that's fun. Congratulations. I hopefully that transitions into the bats waking up consistently. But it's easy to hit when the game's out of hand. It's easy to pile on. You're loose. What do you do with guy on third, less than 2 outs, and you need to drive him home?
Yeah.
Recently, it's been nothing. And that's what really separates good and bad teams because the margin of victory in baseball is so small, right? We know this. In any major sport. You got to do the little things. And right now the Royals are not. Bobby Witt Jr. getting picked off. Bobby Witt Jr. Just getting thrown out by Elias Diaz. Just poor base running decisions. Errors.
Yeah.
Michael Garcia having a bad error. No one, who's leading off, doesn't matter who it is, even in the 10-run game, they try Adam Frazier, he goes 0 for 4. No one getting on base ahead of your actual guys who can drive you in. It's just a culmination of frustration, and that's the way I feel right now. I get it, Jack. It wasn't as bad as the Phillies or some of the Guardians, but they're not in the Guardians or Phillies situation. As you mentioned, they need these wins, and it ain't happening.
By the way, somebody tweeted in, I can't remember who it was, I'll go and look, but tweeted after the game yesterday and said, I mean, Garcia gets on base 3 times, hits a home run. If you're looking for a leadoff guy, seems like he's the one. Why is he batting 8th? All right, so the Royals get 4 All-Stars. Let's take a break and come back, and let's talk about what it means. Is there something to glean, to take away from the Royals getting 4 legit All-Stars? Guys who are absolutely deserving, and even making a case for a 5th that is certainly deserving. How deserving, but in the conversation for deserving. We'll talk about what that means. And Salvi does something else in Royals history, joining just George Brett in Royals history of 1,500 hits and 250 home runs. We'll talk about his place in Royals history here in the Zone on this Monday. 913-912-4810 is the text line. We continue with more Zone right after this. All right, hang out on this Monday edition of the show. Josh Kaiser joins us at noon. One Royal Way podcast. Mick Schaefer at 1 o'clock. KSHB 41 sports director. 8 days from now, the Chiefs will report to training camp, quarterbacks and rookies. So Patrick Mahomes and the rookies will be there in St. Joe starting at next Tuesday. Also next Tuesday will be the All-Star Game. Home Run Derby a week from today. All-Star Game next Tuesday. So a fun Tuesday. Pitchers and catchers reporting. Quarterbacks and rookies, and then the All-Star Game. Royals, 4 All-Stars. Salvi for the 9th time. Bobby Witt for the first time. Lugo the first time. Cole Reagans for the first time. They are All-Stars. And the Royals have 4 representatives that are legit, that are deserving to have 4 players in the All-Star Game. It's the 7th time in franchise history, the first time since 2016. So 2015 and 16, and then before that, 72, 76, 78, and then 82. So a lot there in that run of Royals when they were winning the division and unfortunately losing in the playoffs. And then, of course, 15 and 16. Anything to sort of take away, any bigger view of the Royals getting 4 All-Stars and obviously not just there, well, you're going to get 1 representative. Who's that representative going to be?
I think the coolest thing was actually the Royals tweeted this out. They had 4 All-Stars. 1 was an international signing, Salvi. 1 was an amateur draft pick, just draft pick. 1 was Bobby Witt Jr. 1 was a trade acquisition. That was Reagan's. And the other was a free agent signing, Lugo.
Awesome.
So doing it all 4 ways, I thought was really cool, fast. Obviously, let's be real, Salvi's prior to Piccolo. To JJ, but I thought it was pretty cool. And it just kind of goes to he made
2 of the 4 are JJ.
2 of the 4, and then, obviously Reagan's for Chapman, huge. I looked at what Chapman's done this year, 4.13 ERA. He
got shelled yesterday.
He got shelled and kind of obviously raised it. But I mean, let's be real now. That was a phenomenal move. Bringing in Seth Lugo and saying, hey, you're now, we believe in what you did in San Diego. We believe you're the guy, and not just this year, but for a couple of years. We're going to take a chance. And you got rewarded by it.
Not even take a chance, but I think there were a number of teams that probably would have paid Seth Lugo that money. But the chance is we'll give you a second year and a player option for a 3rd year. I wonder how many teams are willing to give a 2nd year to Lugo, let alone a 3rd year player option of $15 million. So that's the belief for, I believe in Seth Lugo. We believe in Seth Lugo that we're going to give him a contract that other teams probably aren't willing to go a 2nd/3rd year, depending on, him getting to pick that up.
Yeah, I'm so impressed with the avenues the Royals have taken to get 4 All-Stars, all 4 different ways.
I think the coolest part about it is it shows you how much things can change in a year. I mean, last year, the Royals didn't get Bobby Witt Jr. in. They got Salvador Perez in, and though that was great for Salvi, the Royals were on pace to lose well over 100, and their lone All-Star representative was the guy that's been there for a decade plus, right? A 33-year-old catcher. It wasn't like you could turn to the Royals in 2023 and say, man, they're struggling, but at least they've got a young all-star like Bobby Witt Jr. in there. No, there was nothing positive you could say for the future of, well, Salvador Perez got in, but he was also hitting 240. He was the only guy they could get in because they had traded Chapman, and if Chapman wasn't traded at that point in time, he's probably the all-star representative and not Salvador Perez. But now, you look at this, Salvi's having a resurgence, if you will, the fountain of youth type of season. They've got a guy who's top 5 in odds for MVP in Bobby Witt Jr. They have a guy who's top 5 in strikeouts in Cole Reagans, and they've got the American League leader in ERA, innings, and wins. And
might have the starting pitcher.
It might be, might be the starting pitcher. And that, to me, is when, you're going to see the camera pan, when they announce the rosters before the game. It's a really cool scene, and they pan to each guy one by one. The fact the Royals are going to have 4 in a row, which is not just hopefully a small amount.
Hopefully
there.
they have 3 in a row, and then a guy warming up.
A guy warming up. There you go.
That'd be awesome.
But if there were 2 guys, I think it'd be kind of cool of fans there from out of town going, man, the Royals got a few guys in here. 4 is a lot. Like the Phillies have 7. Baltimore has 6 or 7, something like that. Kansas City's in the upper tier of that, of how many guys they got in. And I do not think there's a single player there where you could go, that doesn't really make sense why he got in. All 4 are very deserving. And I'm glad that Cole Reagan snuck in there too, because I was not very confident he was going to be the 4th one in.
So that was my takeaway, is that, so many times in Royals history when you have to have the one representative, It's like, that guy's not really deserving of being there. He's having a fine year, but he's having a fine year on a team that has to get somebody. So he's the best of the bunch. Is he really deserving? Probably not. And this year, I had a couple takeaways with this. And then I saw the Royals tweet. That was awesome. So 3, but that one you just mentioned. And then, Jack, what you brought up with all 4 of these guys being deserving. Nobody you look at and go, why? Why did that guy make it? Like, I look at the all-star pitchers, and I don't think Clay Holmes should be there. Like, I think Clay Holmes is a guy that should not be there. You can't have a guy as an all-star when that team is debating whether or not he's going to remain their closer.
Yeah.
He's an all-star, and the Yankees may pull him from their closer in a week or two because he's been trash for the last 3 weeks. If his season started the way that it's gone the last 3 weeks, he may not be the closer right now. They might have pulled the plug, a while ago because he's sort of at one point he was dominant, like he was getting save after save after save. But the last, couple of weeks he's been bad, and so that's when I look at and go, really? Over Gaddis for the. It's not like the Yankees needed somebody, or Kenley Jansen's been
Craig Kimbrell
really good.
has all of a sudden. Him and Jansen is hilarious.
Right,
We thought they were done.
Kimbrell's been pretty good. Blanco, Gill, if it was going to be a Yankee, maybe Luis Gill. And I don't know the rules on. Do you have to have a certain amount of relief pitchers? Like, do you have to have 4 relief pitchers because they got 4 relievers?
It's 8 starters, 4 relievers.
Okay,
I don't know if there's a rule, but
I
didn't know
if there was a rule that you had to have like 4 or whatever. Because Clay Holmes is one I would look at and go, not really deserving. But the other guys, I look at and go, no. Salvi's obviously deserving. He was damn near the starter. Bobby Witt's deserving. He's top 5 in MVP. Lugo's deserving. He might be the starter of the game. And Cole Reagans is deserving. He's, a guy that has shown how dominant he can be. He is one of the aces in baseball, and we love the strikeouts. And, he's top 5 in strikeouts. So I think he's deserving of being there. My third takeaway from that was they have 2 position players and 2 starters that are legit all-stars. That's a pretty damn good foundation for a team that you would say can compete for a playoff spot or a division. Filling in around them is now the question moving forward, because Lugo and Reagans will be here next year. Salvi and Bobby Witt will be here next year. So what do you do around that? Now, so the pressure of J.J. Piccolo to prove that he's not Dayton Moore, to prove that he can turn things around and isn't just, well, he's next man up and we're going to give the job to J.J. Piccolo, to prove that he can be more analytical, to prove that the way of going about business, just because he learned under Dayton Moore doesn't mean that that's the correct approach every single time, to move forward and take those same strategies, that he has to branch off and be his own man, and he's proven that and he's shown that, to pay Lugo, to trade for Cole Reagans, the development, the coaching staff, etc. Talking to John Sherman, getting the money for Michael Wacha instead of trading Vinny, for Luzardo for the Marlins. Now J.J. Piccolo's job is to figure out the pieces around your 4 all-stars, 2 starters, 2 position players at crucial positions. You've got a legit catcher and a legit shortstop, and your top 2 pitchers in the starting rotation are all really good / great players in the American League. Now your pressure is to build around them. And if you don't make the playoffs this year, that's one thing because you're just starting, right? This is the year that last year a prove-it year, right? Evaluation season. This year is hey, we're going to compete. This offseason and the next year is no, now it's taking the next step. So it would be an expectation of making the playoffs because you're proven that you've got solid foundational pieces, 2 of them for a long time in Reagans and Bobby Witt Jr., and Salvi under contract for a couple of more years, and Lugo under contract for at least 1 more.
Very quickly, I did a whole bunch of research
Good
there.
for you.
Well, I thought you might like this because I was trying to figure out, because Clay Holmes, I'm with that. That name just does not make sense to me. Clay Holmes, I think Yankees fans were like, "What, Clay Holmes?"
Yeah, even Yankees fans are like, "Why? We don't even want to close
somehow
our team."
And then somehow they're still yelling about Volpe, who's hilarious. So the fan vote gets 9 starting position players. Player votes 9 position players, 5 starters and 3 relievers. And then the league office has 2 position players and 4 pitchers. So my understanding is there has to be 3 relievers, a minimum 3. So, for example, Clay Holmes could have been Brady Singer. Could have been
Ronald
Blanco from Houston.
Or Gill for the Yankees.
Or Gill.
I know he's been rough his last 3 starts, but he's one of the best stories in baseball so far this year.
So according to the research I have done, very exhaustive and extensive,
right?
It looks like 3 relievers is the minimum. So.
Is Singer deserving?
I think if there was an injury, he could be in the running for that, because now you look at numbers in the American League. I mean, he's up there in quite a few. I don't know if they'd give him that nod just for the simple fact of, I don't know why it seems like the Royals getting 5 players in feels like a bit much to me. But I mean,
three guys out of their starting staff.
Exactly. That I think would be a bit of a stretch. But he's put himself at least in the conversation. You could make an argument. You could make a case. And if you were to tell me that in February about Brady Singer, that in July we'd be talking about, can he get into the All-Star game as the team's 3rd starter or 4th starter? I'd, tell you that's the best rotation maybe baseball has ever seen, that they can get 3/5 of the rotation. And who knows? If Michael Walken never got hurt, would he be in that conversation? I mean, the way that he's looked of late, he could have had like a sub-3 ERA, kind of in the same spot as Brady Singer to get in to the All-Star game. But it is awesome to see, and also to know that the American League is loaded. I mean, the lineup, the starting lineup, the fact that Bobby Witt Jr. wasn't really close to starting in that game because of how good Gunnar Henderson is. And you're going to have Jose Altuve in his 9th All-Star game. Salvi's in his 9th. You're going to have Judge. You're going to have Soto. The starting pitchers. That's the cool part about the American League as well. Like the White Sox, by far and away the worst team in baseball, they still send Garrett Crochet, who's one of the better pitchers in the American League. It's not like they have that throw-in like a few teams on the National League side do, where it's, okay, they had to put one guy in there. I think the American League top to bottom is as good as it's ever been. Even the standings-wise, the Red Sox are the last wild card team, and they're nearly 10 games over 500, where a team that's 3 games under 500 in the National League is really close to a playoff spot at this point in time.
Well, what's hilarious, even like the A's, who were atrocious, probably should have had 2 guys in. Rooker. Brett Rooker should have probably been. If you look at a lot of the OPS numbers,
they got Mason Miller as their one.
Yeah, but it just made me laugh because you're sitting here going, even the worst team in the AL probably could have got 2 guys in. To your question in regards to Brady Singer, I think it's close. And then the fairness of objectivity here, I think Luis Gil probably has a pretty good case. I think Grayson Rodriguez, fair or not, he's got 11 wins. He's 11-3. I know wins are a horrendous stat, but just when you're tied for the league lead in wins as a starting pitcher, it's hard to at least overlook that. And then obviously I think Blanco would be the first guy I'd call for Houston. But I think
I think Hunter Gaddis for the Guardians has been dominant.
Hunter Gaddis,
he's
I was going
out of class A, but like he's the best out of the best bullpen. Not having the best bullpen guy from the best bullpen in baseball. It was a little interesting and surprising, but they've got a number of players.
I guess I was looking at strictly starters there, but that's a good point. But I think Brady Singer's easy in the conversation. The innings pitched, I think, is somewhat of a knock against him, right? Because he had a lot of starts where it was 5 innings. But I mean, the 2.93 ERA is just absurd, and it's why I keep laughing at times. I'm like, why do we act like Brady Singer is like, I'm so nervous. Part of me is nervous, but what has he shown this year?
It's the 8th best ERA in the American League. He's 18th in innings pitched.
Yeah.
But the 8th best ERA in baseball, in the American League.
Which probably also goes to show you that Q knows what he's doing with Brady. Q understands that when he's probably getting ready, because 18th in innings, but 8th in ERA. As much as a lot of times we like seeing a guy go out there and go 7, 8 innings, how fun it is, Q kind of has this understanding of 6 to 7 is about his max. He gets you 5, and he's struggling in that 5th inning, but he gets out of it. That's fine. He got you the 5 scoreless or 1 inning through 5. One run through 5.
And 4 straight outings where he's only given up a run. I mean, it's the Rangers, Marlins, Rays, and Rockies in Colorado, but he's given up 1 earned run. And he's been absolutely awesome since that Yankees blow up, coming off the Cleveland rough start where he just didn't have it. And maybe that was he was supposed to start at night. got rained out, and then he starts a day game the next day.
The damn rain.
Again for him. But 4 straight outings where he's pitched 7 innings. He's pitched into the 8th in one of them, and he's pitched 5 innings in the other 2. So to your point, time to get him out. Or let's move it over to the bullpen. You know what? I'm going to leave him in a little bit longer. He's a little more pitch efficient. He's on his game here in this particular one. Quattro's handling of Brady Singer has been pretty good. And whether that's pitch count or not, I mean, over the weekend, Hunter Green was awesome for the Reds and threw 7 innings. And then the bullpen came on and gave up 5 runs in the 8th inning for the Reds. And Reds fans were losing their mind because David Bell pulled Hunter Green after 7 innings on 105 pitches. He only had 105 pitches. Why don't you leave him? He's been awesome. You got to put him back out there for the 8th. He's been great. Yeah, Hunter Green's been awesome this year. You want to ruin him? That's not the conversation we're having. When they pulled Seth Lugo with 87 pitches, it was like the exact opposite.
Yeah.
We're wondering what he's doing.
Well, the thing is, too, is guys like Seth Lugo, even guys like Cole Reagans. Cole Reagans, before this year, had never thrown over 100 innings. Seth Lugo had never thrown more than 145 innings. Mm-hmm. Seth Lugo, at this point, he's going to throw one more time in Boston. He'll be around 120-ish innings.
He's at 122 right now.
You have to play that part of, well, if we are in it in September, would you feel really good about running Seth Lugo into the ground against the Marlins and throwing 121 pitches because you're scared to throw a bad bullpen arm out there? Well, then in September, he may not be able to get through 4 innings because he's gassed at that point. Yeah. Hopefully not, but that's happened in baseball. You see guys get shut down when they're out of the wild card race or out of the division race. They shut down guys because you can see them on fumes. It happened to Brady Singer in his best year, 2022. At the very end,
right,
he started to really show that he was wearing down, and they went, okay, we're not going to ruin his season. His ERA, his numbers look bad. It's the same thing with Seth Lugo. The reason you pull a guy at 87 pitches after 6 innings is because either A, it's 104 degrees, and B, you got to play the long game here. You got to be able to trust your bullpen, put faith in those guys, which I know were our feelings on that, but you can't run a guy into the ground. Not Reagans, not Lugo, and I would say not Singer as well. He's never been a 200 innings guy, and if you can have 4 of your guys,
you only have to have 3 relievers, then he could be in place of Clay Holmes. Other people would argue, yeah, but Ronald Blanco should be ahead of Brady Singer. He's 4th in the American League in ERA, and he's got roughly the same amount of innings pitched as Brady Singer, or a couple of the relievers. What I think is interesting though is the Royals might get 5 All-Stars, but really only 4, because Major League Baseball can have 2 All-Stars for the price of 1, or 3 All-Stars for the price of 1. If a pitcher has to have a replacement, somebody gets injured, you can choose Brady Singer, who's starting on Sunday before the All-Star break, which makes him ineligible to pitch, which means he gets a replacement.
Yeah.
And then you name an all-star in Brady Singer's replacement who was replacing somebody else, and then you get to reward a couple of other guys, and you feel less snubs out there, guys that should be all-stars, and maybe you get a Brady Singer and a Blanco, for whoever the guy that might have been.
A Brady and a Blanco, if you will.
A Brady and a Blanco, that's right. You get a Brady, can I get a number 2, a Brady and a Blanco, and a Coke, I guess, to go, please? I don't know that they would go that route, but they could, because you can name Brady Singer an all-star. He's not allowed to pitch. So now you got to name a replacement for Brady Singer, and it's just another guy that's going to be there and get introduced at the all-star game, and you feel less snubs. I don't know that they would do that because I don't know how far down the list Brady Singer would be of replacements for a pitcher if somebody can't go, especially if you're replacing somebody that's starting on Sunday that can't pitch anyway. So then you're going to have a replacement. Well, we're going to replace him with Brady Singer, who also can't pitch. So we're going to place him with somebody else who also can't pitch. We got 10 more All-Stars in the American League. I just think that it's interesting that in theory they could, and it wouldn't hurt anybody else because they would still get to have a replacement for
I
him.
think it'd be weird though if you're because the second if they did Brady, like, well, you knew he couldn't pitch, so why are you?
Because they said, you know what, he's deserving. He was next up. He was next. I mean, you can go that route. Like, look,
sure,
if he's actually the first one out, like in the field of 68. The 69th team, it's like, well, this team has to forfeit. They can't be in the tournament. Well, the 69th team just jumps up and takes that spot. If Brady Singer was the first guy cut, I don't think he was, but if he was the first guy cut, well, we're just following, the guys that we think are worthwhile. We're going to name him. He starts on Sunday. Well, now we're going to go to the next one as well. It's an interesting sort of quirk and technicality that you could have 5. But I do think there's 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 guys that might be ahead of Brady Singer. But we're talking about 4 legit all-stars and another one that we can make an argument could be a legit all-star and not just they have to have a representative. Like you talked about, Jack, of, well, it's going to be Aroldis Chapman. Well, he's not there, so it's Salvi. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll wrap up this hour. One thing I want to get into in the 11 o'clock hour is Salvi's position now all-time in Royals history. We know George Brett is the greatest Royal of all time. Not just our time, but everybody's time of all time. Where's Salvi? We'll get to that in the 11 o'clock hour. We'll come back, wrap up the hour. Coming up next. history. We know George Brett is Mr. Royal, but where is he at after that? We'll get into that. Chris Bubich returned. Pennington made a great debut and a cool story with his parents there. Childhood team that he rooted for in the area that he grew up. It's really cool. And his reward for going out there and getting out of Schreiber's jam is sent back to Omaha for Chris Bubich. But something good came out of that, not specifically for Walter Pennington, but for the Royals as well. We'll talk about that. And boy, replay, they just keep getting it right. It's a really good system they have.
The Zone is presented by Guaranteed Foods, delivering all natural food to Midwestern families since 1958. Enjoy healthier food, more free time, free delivery, and better value. Go to GuaranteedFoods.com.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Sterling Holmes, Jack Johnson, Dylan Michaels. We'll talk with Josh Kaiser coming up at noon. Mick Schaefer joins us in the 1 o'clock hour. Learn Funniest Best coming up from the weekend. Salvador Perez makes his 9th All-Star. So on the same day that he makes his 9th All-Star game, he also joins George Brett as the only Royals in franchise history with at least 1,500 hits and at least 250 home runs. And I was thinking about this yesterday because I've argued, and I think it's going to be the case. I think there's going to be enough people that are going to be arguing and agreeing that Salvador Perez is a Hall of Famer. I think when his career is ultimately over, I think he will be a definite Hall of Famer. I think he's a Hall of Famer right now, but still. As far as Royals go, I do wonder if he'll be a Royals Hall of Famer. He's obviously a Royals Hall of Famer. That's first and foremost. 9-time All-Star, 4-time Silver Slugger, 5-time Gold Glove, and the World Series MVP. George Brett is Mr. Baseball when it comes to Kansas City. Where's Salvi? Is Salvi number 2? Is Salvi, like the question that I started thinking about is Salvi the second greatest Royals player in franchise history?
I think you start with him being the face of this era, right? Lorenzo Cain, it's Salvi. Eric Hosmer, it's Salvi. Then it goes to Gordon, I think, is the next one, and I think you're still picking Salvi. At least I am, right? I would say Salvador Perez is over Gordo.
Yes.
The only of the recent era names I could think of, before I go back a little bit, was Zach Greinke.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I'd go Zach Greinke or Salvi.
I'd go Salvi.
But Greinke, I was going to say Greinke pitched for so many other teams. Longevity-wise, as much as I love Greinke, and that's more of like a fandom of Greinke.
He won one of the few Cy Youngs that Royals pitchers have won.
That was a huge deal.
Yeah.
But I'm still going Salvi. So just in the recent era, right, I think we're all on the same page. It's Salvi, right? From 1995 on. There's no really other pitcher outside of Brett Saberhagen you can make an argument for. And I'm still going Salvi over Saberhagen. And that goes you to position players, and that leaves you with what? Willie Wilson, Frank White, Amos Otis. Well, the only names you can think of.
I think those are the 3.
And I'm going to go ahead and say it. I'm going Salvi. Just spoiler alert, I'm going Salvador Perez. And because George Brett was the face of the first golden generation of Royals baseball. Salvi's the face of the second. There is something to that, playing the lead role more so than you might be. You have a higher WAR. Amos Otis has a higher WAR than Salvi, but what Perez has been to this iteration, I think matters. The numbers are there. The accolades, more specifically, are there for Salvi. The Gold Gloves, all that stuff, whatever your thoughts are on. I know Yankees fans have their thoughts, and I'll just push back and say, yeah, well, Derek Jeter had to make a jump throw because he couldn't get to balls because of his range. Don't go there, Yankees fans.
Don't even think about going there.
But the accolades are there for Salvi. The counting numbers are there for Salvi. I'm going Salvi as the second best Royals player in history.
I think I'd be accused. I don't know, by older generation might be accused of having the recency bias. But I agree with Sterling in that, I asked the question, and maybe I asked the question just because that was my own thought anyway. It wasn't a question as in like, hey, is he the second best because it's my opinion and you should agree with me? But looking at and examining some of the Royals in history, when I think of those 70s and 80s teams, I think of George Brett. Like, he's the first one that comes to mind. And when I think of this group of players in this next great generation that went to a World Series and won a World Series, just as that 70s and 80s group of players went to a World Series and won a World Series, I think of George Brett. And this era, I think of Salvi. And, Salvi's played his entire career with this Royals organization. And George Brett played his entire career with the Royals organization. He doesn't have the, 14, or was it 16? 16 years? 16 years and 14 years for Amos Otis in a Royals uniform. How many is it for Salvi? Is this year 13?
This is 13.
Year 13. So he's a couple of years away from surpassing Amos Otis in years that he's played for, the Kansas City Royals.
If it's 14 if you count he was on the roster but didn't play because of the injured season.
Yeah, so that didn't.
So it's still 13 then, okay.
Yeah, so 13. 18 years for Frank White. Those are the names that I think of when it's George Brett and then who? It's Amos Otis, it's Frank White, and Salvi, Sabes, Willie Wilson. Those are the ones that would come up in conversation of like, all right, who were the greatest Royals of all time? And to me, it's a conversation about Salvi or AO. Like, I think I think Amos Otis is the second greatest Royal of all time. It, sucks in the fact that, he wasn't on the 85 team. If he was on the 85 team, then I think he's definitely number 2, but I think he's number 2. He played in the World Series in '80, and he's the second greatest offensive player in Royals history. I mean, he's third all time in hits, RBIs, games played, triples. He's second all time in total bases, stolen bases, walks, runs, run created, and fourth all time in doubles and home runs is Amos Otis in Royals history. He also won 3 Gold Gloves in the outfield and played a premier position. And I think that's where Salvi comes in playing the premier position of catcher and having the 5th all-time WAR in Royals history. He's 8th in total bases, 8th in doubles, he's 2nd in home runs, he's 5th in RBIs, but he's doing it while playing catcher. A little more first base, some more DH, but in year 13/14, 34 years old, he's still playing predominantly catcher. And Frank White, for his 8 Gold Gloves, he played second base. That's not catcher. It's not center field. It's not a premier position. And I go George Brett, and for a long time I went Amos Otis second, and I think Salvi surpassed him with the World Series MVP, and now 13, 14 years, what he's doing now, 9-time All-Star, 5 Gold Gloves, and, again, he's got a ring with the Royals. I think Salvi's moved into, and I think definitely when his career is over, will be viewed as the second greatest Royals player of all time.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the all-time Royals leaders. I mean, Amos Otis surpasses Salvador Perez in a lot of them right now.
He does.
And I do think he's one of the most underrated Royals of all time because though he was not on the 85 team, I mean, from the 70s to the early 80s, he was one of the best players on that team. But George Brett, when you talk to fans that didn't live through, including myself, you talk to fans who didn't live through the 70s and the 80s, you would just hear George Brett, George Brett, George Brett. Whereas Salvador Perez was, let's be honest, he was the face of that team that had this rise from irrelevancy to having the best farm system that baseball had ever seen, to going from 100 lost seasons to getting to back-to-back World Series. And though at the time we might have said, well, Hosmer's the face, or Lorenzo Cain is the face, or James Shields, Wade Davis, the bullpen, when it's all said and done, I think when you look back 10, 15, 20 years on that team, you'll remember Salvador Perez more, not just because of the wild card hit, not just because of all the All-Star games. It's because that the Royals promoted him as the face. He was the guy that was there from the beginning through the peak and then through the fall and then through the down years and then hopefully this time around through the rise back up again. And when you have a guy that stays around for 14, 15, 16 years and does it at this position, by the way, and to be his size, let's not lose sight of that. He's 6'4", 260 pounds. You're not supposed to be going to All-Star games at 34 years old at that size. You would maybe be
prime.
done.
You forgot that conversation. He's in his prime right now.
Prime for catchers is
there you
34
go.
years
Like
old.
Joe Mauer, which I imagine they're trying to do with Salvi a little bit. Joe Mauer, toward the end of his career, had to move to first base. He was too big, and it's going to have too much wear and tear on your body. But I think if he gets one more, he ties Yadier Molina for All-Star games. He'll have 10 All-Star appearances. He'll have all of his Gold Gloves. He'll have the Silver Slugger Award. He'll have the year where he had 48 home runs to break Jorge Soler's record.
120 RBIs.
120 plus RBIs. Like, there are aspects to his game that's always going to be nitpicked of, well, he's not as good as you think he is. Like, he's never been a high OBP guy. He'd hit 260 and his OBP would be 295, but have 25 to 30 home runs. That's just who he is. But I also look at the position, which is different compared to Amos Otis, where if you're an outfielder, if you're an infielder, you're going to have a better chance to be a well-rounded hitter. Think about in the game today how many catchers are great. In the last 20 years, how many catchers are this good offensively, can hit 48 home runs. When he was having that 2021 season, we were talking about Johnny Bench. Like, you just didn't see many guys. Like Pudge Rodriguez, we consider to be maybe the best catcher of all time. Or you go way, way back to like Yogi Berra. Like, Salvador Perez is in that conversation because of the accolades that he has. And I believe when you revisit this conversation 10 years down the road, he's done playing baseball. I think a lot more people are going to say Salvador Perez is the second best Royal of all time and not Amos Otis. However, when you have Bobby Witt Jr. on your team, like if Salvador Perez plays 3 more years and Bobby Witt Jr. just year after year is the face, maybe it kind of becomes that Amos Otis thing where, yeah, Salvi's really good or Amos Otis is really good, but we all remember George Brett or we all remember Bobby Witt Jr. So this conversation may be completely different 10 years down the road, maybe we're talking about Bobby Witt Jr. being the greatest Royal of all time.
I mean, it's a good chance in 10 years we are,
As the
but
second-
second in 10
greatest,
years, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can be watching the second and third greatest Royals of all time when Bobby Witt's career is over, playing at the same time. Like, we can see, it'd be George Brett, Bobby Witt, Salvi, AO, and if somebody wants to argue Frank White, Willie Wilson, that's fine. I'm not going to, say, that how crazy it is that somebody would say Frank White is the second greatest Royal of all time right now, or Willie Wilson, second greatest Royal, or Saberhagen, who's got a World Series MVP as well, and homegrown guy. So if somebody wants to argue that, that's perfectly fine. I think it's George Brett. I think it's Salvi. I think it's Amos Otis after that, and then whether that be Frank White or Willie Wilson, after that. But it could be Bobby Witt in 10 years from now. I thought it was.
The one season of Mark Teahan.
Yes, that's right. That one season, Solaire's one season. That was amazing. Jermaine Dye's 2000 season. That would go up there. That might put him in conversation. I don't know. But who was it last night when they were announcing it was Tim Kirchin, and they were announcing the All-Stars, and then they got around to Bobby Witt as one of the reserve players, and Tim Kirchin said, Royals fans are enjoying All-Star game number 1 for Bobby Witt of what could be 10 to 15. He goes, and I'm not joking. The 10 to 15-year All-Star in Bobby Witt. He's going to get double-digit All-Stars in his career when it's all said and done, and he might end up with 15 All-Star appearances for Bobby Witt. Hopefully 7 of those are with the Royals, right? And we'll see what happens after that.
Wait, what do you mean? No, you want them all with the Royals.
I would love all of
Stop
them with
that.
the Royals. I think Salvi, all of his All-Stars are going to be, with the Royals.
Bold take.
Well, I mean, if he goes somewhere else in 2 or 3 years and he has an awesome season and makes an All-Star game, I hope he retires a Royal. I hope when he's done playing with the Royals, he ends up retiring. But if he's got 3 more years left, he could end up number 1, and he could surpass George Brett in home runs. He's 57 home runs away from George Brett right now. George Brett had 317, and Salvi is at 260 right now. So 57 home runs away from George Brett. If he plays 3 more years, could end up with the most home runs in Royals history.
Do you know who's
playing
third,
catcher?
by the way?
Sweeney, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
but with
Sweeney.
197. It just
Yeah,
seems so drastic. You
Otis
look at
is
it.
4th all time.
Yeah. You're looking at some of these historic numbers, and you're surprised at some of the, quite frankly, some of the low numbers that Royals have traditionally have.
And that's certainly part of it, right? Is when you're talking about Salvi or AO or Frank White or Willie Wilson, that you say, okay, well, these are low numbers, but then, if you're looking at just specifically Royals, you've got Amos Otis 4th in home runs all time, 3rd in triples, and 2nd in stolen bases. It's that same guy.
Yeah,
Amos Otis.
yeah.
It's like-
5 tool.
Yes.
Five
he
tool.
really was. He was a 5-tool player that could hit home runs, that could, run like the wind and hit for average and play an amazing defense. He was a 5-tool player back in the day. And 2nd all-time in WAR in Royals. And maybe that'll, keep Salvi down from, hey, Salvi's the, 3rd greatest because he's, still, 10 wars away, 10 points of WAR away from Amos Otis. He's 1/10 of WAR away from Frank White. He's a 34.7. Frank White was 34.8. So I do think Salvi's a greater Royal than Frank White, and it has nothing to do with what the last year and a half has been. Nothing to do with that. Frank White was
What happened
awesome.
the last year and a half? What happened?
Frank White didn't win another Gold Glove.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
so he's still stuck at 8.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to get to number 9 or 10, but that did not happen. And Frank White was American League. He was ALCS MVP, so he's got that on his resume. I think he's a Hall of Famer, and I think he's a statue. Like, I think the Royals might have 2 statues from this era. They might have Alex Gordon, and I think they'll definitely have Salvi. But if they add 2, we'll see if Gordon's out there or not. But I think definitely Salvador Perez. And that 2015 team, Jack, that you brought up in terms of like, okay, face, and, they promoted Salvi as the face. That 2015 team, I think there are 3 different categories of players. Best player on the team was Kane. The heart and soul of the team was Hosmer. But it feels like, looking back, like the face of this era is Salvi. from 2011 to now. That era of baseball of Royals, from being trash to winning to rebuilding and now competing again, has been Salvi there the whole time. The heart and soul of that team was Hosmer. And the best player on that team was Lorenzo Cain.
Team kind of picks the MVP too. It's not really their pick,
He
but
was World Series MVP.
I'm saying
Yeah.
the team has a big influence of we would like this guy to be the MVP of the game, and so they kind of have that's the reason why Patrick Mahomes has won 3 Super Bowl MVPs, even when people probably could have given it to Damian Williams the first time.
Nope.
Also, Peyton Manning didn't do much in his Super Bowl, but again, it's the franchise's pick a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So I also think that the franchise sees Salvi even as the kind of pillar, the main pillar of that team as well.
Yeah, and Salvi in the World Series was just
Insane, right?
He's been unbelievable in the World Series, and especially in that World
375
Series.
batting average or something crazy
He's,
like that.
In that World Series, he batted 370.
Yeah.
An OPS 900, and
You had to be good. I'm not saying you could just go out
Yeah,
there
for
and
sure.
bat 120 and then they put you
Yeah,
there. But
and in the World Series against the Giants in those 7 games, he batted 333. So I mean, the guy's a 350 hitter in the World Series.
I have a question for you guys. And this is just one of the names that comes up because I do think, as much as I think the accolades, well, we all believe Salvador Perez is a Hall of Famer, there's obviously going to be a lot of pushback. Let's be real now, because the wins above replacement and the defensive framing and all, I think it's a little absurd. Yadi Molina, somehow all the underlying numbers point to him, and he gets the intangibles, but somehow Perez doesn't get the intangibles. Always fascinates me.
Now, as a Hall of Famer as a catcher, and he didn't catch after age 27.
Yeah, that blows my mind.
Whatever.
The name I want to bring up is Jorge Posada.
Georgie?
Is he a Hall of Famer? Because if
It is both!
No.
It's both!
No, hear me out. Jack, is Posada a Hall of Famer? Because if he is, I despise the Yankees. This is hard for me. But if he gets in, then I think Salvador Perez gets in. If Posada does not get in, I think that really hurts Salvi's chances.
Yeah, I don't think Jorge Posada gets in. I'd be pretty surprised if he was.
He never won a Gold Glove.
I get it.
He won
5
4 World Series, but never World Series MVP.
5-time All-Star, 5-time Silver Slugger as a catcher, but in some of the numbers are very similar.
1,500 hits, 220 home runs for both of them at least.
Because he has 275 home runs, 1,664 hits, 273 batting average if you want to use batting average as a stat. OPS plus of 121 for Jorge. OPS plus, again, era included for Salvi's, 105.
I think that's actually been the argument before when we've heard about Salvador Perez being mentioned as a Hall of Famer. You'll hear the side of, well, if he gets in, then you should put Jorge Posada in. And I don't think Jorge Posada does get in.
He's 5 Gold Gloves away from Salvi.
Yes. And he's also Posada played, what, 17 years?
Posada and the 4 of us combined are 5 Gold Gloves away from Salvi.
There you go. But with Salvador Perez, too, I think one interesting aspect of this debate is from 2019 to 2020, he played 37 games because he was out all of 2019 with Tommy John. The COVID year happened, and he didn't even play all the COVID year because of the COVID thing where he had something with his eye, like he got sick, and then he had the blurry vision in his eye. He played 37 games from 2019 to 2020. Now, the debate becomes, did that time off allow him to have 4 seasons in which he was well above a league average hitter? The only one not being above the league average was 2023. He has the 48 home run season, the 121 RBI season. His OPS plus was over 100 in 4 of these 5 years. He's now back to the All-Star game. The debate becomes, do we use 2019 and 2020 and go, well, imagine if COVID didn't happen and he didn't get hurt. What are his numbers like in 2019, 2020? Does he get close to George Brett's home run total at this point in his career rather than being, 50, 60 back? Or do you look at it and say, if he did play in those seasons, he's nowhere near the player is now because he didn't get that time off? Because we remember back in 13, 14, 15, and 16, Ned Yost put Salvador Perez behind the plate almost every single game.
He did.
I mean, we talk about Sunday catchers now and Freddie Fermin getting behind the plate a lot. Ned Yost put Salvador Perez behind the plate almost every single day. And I don't blame Ned Yost because Salvador Perez was going, put me behind the plate. I don't want to DH. I don't want to play first base. But I think that time of even Mike Matheny DHing Salvi the majority of 2021, or at least in the second half, it's allowed him to now have a chance at this longevity, where at age 34, he's an all-star, and he is deserving to be an all-star, where if he played in 2019, 2020, or didn't play, or sorry, if he did play in that, maybe he doesn't get that reset. And he is worn down at this point, and he does look like a 34-year-old catcher where he can barely stay in the lineup. So that, I think, will be interesting when it's all said and done of, well, he missed 2 years, basically, or if he played those years, he's not having 2 extra years down the road at the end of his career.
I think it kind of helped him if you look at the bounce back numbers, because you look at, 2018 before he got injured, and you kind of look like a little bit of a drop off, and we're sitting here going, oh no, is the age. At that point, I mean, he was 29?
He was 28. 29 is the year that he
But
missed.
we're kind of talking a little bit about, okay, he's caught so many games. Is he going to age quicker? And then, again, I'm not saying the injury was good, and then obviously I think the counting numbers could have been a little bit higher, but I think overall it's hard to deny when he came back and had the years that he's had that maybe the time off at least helped alleviate some of that. But he had 137 games catching. These are just catching numbers, not first base or DH. 137 games catching. Then 2014, 146 games catching. That's like back in the 1920s of pitchers going out there and throwing every other day or every game. That's absurd. Then 139 games catching in 2015. Then 128, then 115. But that stretch right there is just absurd. One we probably will never see again in Major League Baseball history, as far as that stretch of how many games catching. You don't see that.
Well, and look, Posada was a part of a dynasty. Was a part of that. He was a coiffeur with the Yankees, and that can push him over the edge. He played in a ton of postseason games, so he had the marketability. He's known for being and playing in October and November. He's also a guy that batted 220, and the combined 14 games that he played, or not 14 games, but the 14. So 8 years of the ALCS and World Series. So in 8 times he played in the ALCS, 6 times in the World Series. And in those 8 years, or those 8 series or whatever, he averaged being a 220 hitter and around a 700 OPS guy, where Salvi in the World Series is 348. He's only played 12 World Series games, so, a little bit different. Posada's played 29 World Series games, so maybe if Salvi played 17 more World Series games, his numbers would drastically fall off. But you are talking about a guy who hit 350 in 12 World Series games as opposed to a guy who's hit 219 in 29 World Series games. He's also played in 29 World Series games, Jorge Posada. And he didn't just tag along, right? He wasn't just coattails. He was a really good player. He was a phenomenal player back in his day. And he, played till age 40. And we'll see what happens. And if we go the route of like, okay, Salvi got a second lease on life by playing those 30 some odd games in 2 years, I think you can see where it can be a reset, because Posada in 2008 with the injury only played 50 games, and he was batting 260, and then the next year he batted 285, and after that he batted 248 and 235, and then he was done. So he plays 50 games and he comes back the next year and bats almost 290. Now that was his 38, 39, and 40-year-old season. So you can, make an argument that, hey, he only played 50 games and he came back, and look how refreshed Posada was, and the guy had a good year. So if Salvi at 29 and 30 is missing years, but we're talking about a 37-year-old season for Posada where he only played 50 games, and a 29-year-old and 30-year-old in Salvi that missed almost 2 seasons. And Salvi is a 28-year-old and 27-year-old back-to-back 27 home runs. 27 home runs, 27 home runs, and then didn't play, and then played 37 games. So was he just going to fall off to be a 10-home-run hitter? Or he hits more home runs in those 2 years, but he doesn't hit 48, and maybe it all evens out. But is he another all-star in those 2? Does he win a Gold Glove in those 2? Because he had won, 4 out of 5 Gold Gloves those years, or 5 in a row Gold Gloves, whatever it was. When he got injured and missed the season, he had been the American League catcher's Gold Glove every year, and I don't think he's won one since.
For me, the issue is I don't like the what-ifs with injury. to an extent because that's part of being in the Hall of Fame is like you have to have the longevity and the health and all that goes with it. It's the COVID year for me that's a little bit. I wonder how it gets looked at because again it's only half a year or a third of a year basically.
Games.
Yeah, it's just that one always is weird to me because it's for everyone. The COVID year, obviously, it was just 60 games. It was a lot different.
Mm-hmm. And he only played a quarter of what would be a 160 game season, 62 games.
Yeah,
and
so
a quarter.
That's just that one's always hard for me to look at. Injuries in that season and stuff, we can look at it glass half full, half empty. But for me, I think you have to look at it half full because, or else you're sitting here going, injuries are part of baseball, right? Like DeGrom was a surefire Hall of Famer, and now he's probably not going to get into.
Well, it depends on what he does his second, part of his career. After
He's been injured every single year. That's my point. It's like it's part of the game. It's part of what makes Hall of Famers and baseball Hall of Fame specifically, not the Hall of Very Good. Baseball has a lot of very
let's say
higher expectations.
If he plays 2 more years, Salvi, after this year, and he makes All-Stars the next couple of years, if he plays somewhere near this level, and he's an 11-time All-Star. And if he plays 2 more years and hits another 40 home runs after this year, not per season, but total.
Yeah.
Because he's hit 20 home runs or more, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This would be the 8th straight year, not counting 2020, when he hit 11 in 37 games. Yeah. So he would have 2020 and 2021 were sort of the same pace. 11 home runs in 37 games, and then 48 home runs in 160. Yeah. So he went through that tear, and he's hit 23, and he's hit 14 already. So he's, injury aside, he's going to get to 20. So if he plays 2 more years and gets, another, 40 home runs total and a couple of more RBIs, like you're talking about a 300 home runs and close to 2,000 hits. I mean, probably 1,700, something like that, 1720, 1730. Around there, and I don't think he's going to win another Gold Glove. Does he win a Silver Slugger? Probably not. Rushman could win it, or who else?
Sure.
Or somebody else. But even if he only goes to 1 more All-Star, I mean, a 10-time All-Star, a World Series MVP, 4-time Silver Slugger, 5-time Gold Glove winner, played 15 years, 300 home runs, 1,700 hits, predominant catcher. Right, it's home run numbers, or I mean, it's Hall of Fame numbers, and it's second greatest Royal to ever live numbers, if you ask me. Like I get the Jorge Posada conversation and that argument that goes on, and he's more known because of playing with the Yankees in an era that they were, the dynasty. But Jorge Posada.
The Mark Teixeira era, if you will.
Yeah, for sure. He, I know the joke, but I'm just looking at like I'm actually surprised. Like I know that we downgrade Joe Mauer as a quote catcher, who was really a first baseman and a DH second half of his career, but Posada at 38 years old still caught 100 games. I mean, so. As a 39-year-old, the second to last season, he still caught 83 games. Played DH, and then his last year, he only caught 1 game, which was the last game of the season that he played catcher. He was a DH and first base. They even put him at second base for.
I forgot about that.
Game. Yeah, just for S's and G's. But yeah, it's. Kudos to that. As a 38-year-old, he went out and caught 100 games. In a season at 38 years old.
It's wild. The Yankees retired Posada's number in 2015, and he seems to be on the list of Yankee retired numbers. I feel like he might be the only one that's not in the Hall of Fame. And so the Yankees think so highly of Jorge Posada, but the Baseball Hall of Fame doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
So they.
Does Bernie have because Koafoa, right?
He's retired. Yeah, 51's retired.
Yeah, so those 4 players like retired numbers, like your Koafoa for the dynasty. Probably should have their numbers retired. You've got way more numbers retired in Yankee history. I know it's not just like everybody gets their numbers retired, but it's a little more common to a degree than other franchises where the Royals have 3, 4 numbers retired. But one of those being every single team in the league has 42 retired as well. 13 is going to be retired. It should be.
Yes. agreed.
Whenever Salvi's done playing, nobody should wear 13 again. 10, 13, 5, 20, and 42 should never be worn. And I think he'll have a statue. But I think he's a Hall of Famer, and I think he's the second greatest Royal of all time. Jack, you put him at number 2 or number 3? Before we go to break, where's he at? He's number 2 for me, and then AO.
It's really, really close. I think I will put Salvi at 2. It's very, very narrow. It kind of feels interchangeable with him and AO.
I have no problem admitting my bias with how much I love Salvi and being a younger child. Like my dad might be like, I'm going to slap you, Jason. Not for this, just in general. But then also we're going to have some words about AO. That might have been, like he might just, be like, it's blasphemous, if he was still here. And I'd be like, well, Dad, you passed away like right after they won the World Series in 15. You haven't seen Salvi since, like that's your fault. Don't blame me, because, Dylan, 2, 3, 4 for Salvi.
Yeah, I'm going to go 2. If they've only had 3 captains in our entire team's franchise history, I'm going to put him above Mike Sweeney and then right below George Brett.
Sterling, you already you let us off with
Yeah,
him being number 2.
I think Salvi's 2, and I think he's a Hall of Famer. I didn't mean to get into that heated of a debate with Jorge Posada. I just think it's an interesting
it's
one.
fun.
I think it's a pushback that you're going to get from a lot of national media.
I think it's the anger from the Miller Lite commercial is why you had to bring Jorge Posada into this.
That's right. Are they Hall of Famers? They are both. They're both. All right, we'll continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Josh Kaiser joins us at noon. Mick Schaefer, 1 o'clock, KSHB 41 Sports Director. We got some Learn, Funniest, Best coming up in the 1 o'clock hour. Instant replay. Seems to be working just fine, right? What it was instituted to be, right? What we're seeing is what we imagined instant replay was put into baseball for.
Sarcasm.
What? The pitch clock was there to make the games a little shorter, go by a little quicker. That has done exactly what they wanted to have happen. The shift on the infield, to a degree, the overall numbers down this year, but the numbers were great last year, up last year. So, that worked. And instant replay, they're just getting the calls right. Just all you can ask for.
How do they miss them? I don't understand.
Even if you argue last Saturday's Cole Reagan's Guardians game that, well, it shifts, but we can't really tell if it shifted off the yellow or the black, and that camera angle wasn't great, we're going to go with the call stands. We think it's like 52-48, even though we looked at it and was like, that's obviously off the black pole, not the yellow. The definition of fan interference was Friday night. I mean, that's like what fan interference was put in for. You've got a player making a play on the ball. The ball is hitting his glove while somebody reaches out into the field of play, hits that player's glove, grabs a ball, and pulls it towards them.
Did the fan get tossed, by the way?
No.
You got to stay in. If it's not interference, you get to stay in, and I think they give you like.
Did he keep
probably
the ball?
free stuff. Yeah.
He turned around and he started got a standing ovation because he gave his team a run. I believe, I can't prove it, I believe Darren Blanco catches the ball.
It was in his glove.
He catches the ball.
Yeah, I think he probably does. You're right. It was
the catch of his
glove.
career,
yeah.
by the way. A guy that plays once or twice, if that, every single week. The catch of his career.
Yeah, and that is fan interference by definition. That's an easy call. It shouldn't have taken that long to overturn it. Certainly for the call to stand. Like, there have been 4 plays this year for the Royals that all 4 went against them that were by definition the opposite of what was ruled. 2 of those were obstruction at second base.
Yeah.
One on Bobby Witt stealing, and the dude clearly stood in front of second base, and Bobby Witt slid in and hit his leg, and Q got tossed. MJ Melendez getting picked off, and then them replaying because he didn't touch the bag, so going to replay, obstruction isn't a reviewable play, so by virtue of the fact that he touched the guy's foot and not the bag, he's out because obstruction isn't reviewable. But what is reviewable is whether or not he touched the bag. We didn't touch the bag. Why didn't he touch the bag? Well, the player's foot was in front of the bag. Is that obstruction? Well, technically, but we can't review that, so the player is out. Fair or foul on a home run. That was a foul ball. And that's fan interference. So I can understand Q's frustrations, and I'm glad that he didn't hold back on Friday night. Like, not sure what replay's for. I mean, that's Q. Not sure what replay's for. I mean, that was obvious fan interference. I'm not sure what they're seeing. The Royals have every right to be frustrated with replay because 3 of the replays were either overturned or upheld that seemed pretty obvious that weren't home runs or was obstruction, but you can't review that. Can't review obstruction.
I think the way I watch baseball now, and it's actually giving me more peace of mind, I go in expecting the umpiring crew to screw something up, and that's the way it is. I actually had somebody on Twitter get angry at the fact that I said on Friday night, I'm like, just stop expecting them to do their job. They're terrible at what they do. And he's like, you're blaming umpires, a quick unfollow for that one. I'm like, if you're still watching baseball and you look at an umpiring crew, whether it be on the field or in New York, and you go, those guys, I understand human mistakes.
They unfollowed because you were blaming umpires?
Because I was blaming umpire. So might have been an
I thought
umpire burner.
I was going to say, we found the burner
Might have
account.
been
We
the burner
found
of-
Angel Hernandez.
of Laz Diaz or something.
I thought it would have been a quick you're saying that the umpires that's an easy call. Unfollowing you if you're not going to say that.
Yeah, my thing is I understand human mistakes. I really do. It's why you have replay. It's like
Do you miss that follower?
I didn't know they followed
talking
me.
about it. He's talking about it
Yeah,
right
no,
now.
please follow me back. I promise I won't be as mean this time around. But it's one of those things where I get every once in a while a borderline call. Okay, it's right on the edge. It's called a strike, but it actually was a ball. I understand that. If you're missing pitches in the middle of the zone and not calling that a strike, you're bad at what you do. If you have this, the fair foul, you have review. I'm not blaming the guys on the field. I can't blame Laz Diaz. He's far from the plate. But then New York, you're telling me you can't see a right angle where that's foul. And then fan interference. The fact, whenever you hear broadcasters, whether they are biased or not, going, oh, that's actually the definition of what fan interference is. He reached over, he's over the yellow line, and then I feels like too many times this year, the New York crew goes with, well, we really can't tell. Like, no, we have this so you can tell. I hate stands. I want to hear confirmed or overruled. I got to know either way. And it feels like with the Royals in the last 4 times you brought up, it's like, well, we just don't have the angle. Well, do you have like 2 screens in there that show you 2 angles and then you can't get the definition
They're
of
watching
it?
Family Guy, but we didn't have the Family Guy angle, so
I mean, I think umpires have such a bad relationship with fans and managers and coaches, or with players, because 1, you can screw up a call. 2, you don't have to answer to that. You don't have to speak to reporters after that. And how many times do we see umpires screw up a call and then have the arrogance to go, I got that call right. No, now I'm ejecting you because you're showing me up. And then they never come back and go, you know what, I apologize for that. I always go back to the fact that Jim Joyce ruined Armando Galarraga's perfect game. It's one of the most infamous missed calls in history. Jim Joyce went to reporters after the game, was crying, and said how he blew that call. That's awful on me. I can't believe I did that. The next day, still was upset and crying and apologized to him. And I go, if umpires just did that on missed calls, I think there would be this grace of, they are humans at the end of the day. They're going to miss calls. But with this, when you just constantly screw up and you go, that's what we have. Sorry to tell you that. And then if you push back on that, it's, no, you're showing me up. I'm going to eject you, and now you can't manage your team or you can't play in the game. They're protected by the umpires union. And that's why there is such this divide. I can live with a missed strike call. I can't live with it down the middle. You can't miss calls like that. I don't care if it looks bad to you or good to you, the human eye. It's not close, all right? And you're paid to be at the top level here. This is the big leagues here. This isn't 12U where you have some kid who just came from, some party the night before and now he's umpire again. These are professionals doing their job, and too many times we have awful, and I'm not talking borderline, awful screw-ups, and the Royals have been on the poor end of that too many times over the last few weeks.
Maybe it's projecting in the, no accountability and them, anytime they're argued with, they toss somebody out of the game because they couldn't possibly be wrong. Maybe it's projecting at that in my frustrations with Major League umpires, but I do wonder how much grace there would be to mistakes that are given if there was an accountability or just simply I missed it. I missed the call, because I think what replay has done outside of New York being blind, but I think what replay has done in a lot of these bang plays at first is like, wow, they got that call right. Like the Rockies yesterday in the scoop by Salvi, the throw from Garcia, the scoop by Salvi. Immediately, what? Replay that. No, he was safe. And he was out. He got it right by like an inch and a half. He got that thing right. Like that replay was like, oh my God, that umpire, that's a hell of a call, man. And then there was another bang play like the next inning, and he got that one right. Like replay has shown like how difficult and how close some of these things are, and how often they get them right. But it's also okay to get one wrong. It happens. You're going to get some wrong. But the arrogance of, no, I got it right. No, that was right. Well, no, it wasn't right. And it's okay to admit that you got some things wrong. Some of the arrogance and the pushback from umpires, especially with balls and strikes, is why we're going to be closer to whether it's a challenge system or just robo-umps.
That's what I was going to say, is there is no umpire or referee union closer to being replaced by automation than the Major League Baseball?
Yeah.
I would say. If maybe soccer with VAR, but as far as being able to do it and the ability to, I think baseball is the closest.
There was an umpire that brought up a point a few weeks ago, and I actually agree with it. I think it's a really good point that the umpires should have the pitch comm in their head and theirs. Because his point was, I'd be able to judge the pitch, balls, and strikes better if I knew what pitch he was getting ready to throw. Not necessarily like I'm adjusting with the batter. Like the batter's throwing this guy's throwing a curve, and I'm like, that's a ball or a strike. If I know a curve is coming, then I can focus in and know I'm watching for a curveball right now. And I know exactly what I'm looking for with this particular pitcher. I thought it was a good point. With the movement of pitchers these days and how sharp things break, if I know this guy, a lefty, is bringing a sweeping slider, I'm going to be expecting a sweeping slider and not necessarily a fastball that's riding in on that guy. And I can maybe judge it a little closer and have a better idea of, did that cross the plate when it crossed that guy's, knees, or when it crossed his body at the plate. I thought it was an interesting point. That if they had a better idea of what the pitch was happening, you'd have something more to closer focus on, so you don't get tricked like the batter sometimes gets tricked.
Yeah, and to your point, I don't know, Jack, if does the pitch comm say location too? Because I know that they get very finite about.
No, I think it's just the pitch.
Yeah.
But to that
But
umpire's point,
the catcher's setting up where they want the
Right, okay,
location.
yeah.
I do think, on the bang bang plays at first base, like that's what I think review does help with a lot, because it sucked to see something like that be called safe. He's actually out, and then that guy's on first base. But I think from the human eye, I couldn't make a call like that.
No.
Even if I was paid, I would struggle with that. Balls and strikes. You missed 3 calls in a game, so be it. That's still a really good total. To me, the issue comes back to the ones you can't screw up. And that's not always the guys on the field. It could be the guys in New York looking at a screen where if you can't get every possible angle to get that call right, well, then there has to be some other system put in place here, because that's where it becomes a human mistake that even the fan can see. When we're watching the replay going, oh, that's going to be overturned. That should be fine. And then you come back and it's, well, we actually couldn't find the angle. Well, that can't be true because we just saw the angle.
We watched the angle.
We got the goal line angle. We saw
Dude.
that the ball crossed the goal line. His hands were over. He was holding the ball across the yellow line. That's a touchdown. He crossed the goal line.
How nervous was that fan?
Second inning.
How nervous was that fan? I just paid a good amount of money.
Wife, 2 kids, the 4 of them there.
Oh, we're all here.
Front row.
The payment of the ticket and everything else would probably be not a good thing. You'd be nervous about that. But either way, let's say it is called an out. It was going to be an out anyway. That ball was in Dairon Blanco's hands, so either he interfered with it and you gave it a chance at a home run, or it would have been out anyway. But
I'm just saying, you're getting kicked out of the game, and now you're known as like. It's not.
He did put his hands on it. He was like, "Oh no!" And then Michael Tolia too. When it was the call stood, he's like, "Wow, I can't believe that stood." He was like, "Okay, great." And then
I love the view of the dugout when he was like, "Whoa!"
He's
okay.
like, "Oh right,
I gotta be a home run." Thanks, guy. I'm gonna get you an autographed ball
I
after
bet he
the
did.
game.
I
I'm
bet
gonna
he
go
did.
autograph that ball for you after the game because he stole an out and gave them a run. Like it was 1-0 at that point. It was 1-1, and those are the things that can happen. And, mistakes happen, but, like, even on Saturday when the Royals lose 3-1, it's the second inning and it's 0-0. It's 2 outs, nobody on, so maybe it means nothing. But Freddie Fermin had a 3-0 count. And the next pitch was high and outside and wasn't really close.
Yeah.
And he had already dropped the bat, and the umpire was like, strike! And the next pitch he grounds out. Well, even if it's like, okay, well, even if he gets on base, it's Garrett Hampson. All right, well, that's fine. Garrett Hampson flies out, gets an out. Well, now you flipped it to now Isbell and Garcia are the next 2 at bat. Instead of, by the time Garcia comes up, there's 2 outs because Hampson flew out, and then Kyle Isbell flew out, and then Garcia. They went 3 up, 3 down that inning. Maybe nothing happens, but it's one more batter to getting closer to turning over the lineup. If that call was just simply called correctly as ball 4, he goes down to first. Next pitch, it's a ground out. And that wasn't even close. I mean, it was so far, outside and high. Like Fermin is a catcher, and he'd already dropped the bat and was like, "All right, dude." And then the next pitch he grounds out, and that isn't even counting Garrett Hampson with a 3-0 count and somehow swinging at ball 4 with a guy who has trouble with control and walked a couple of guys. And at a 3-0 count, there was zero chance that guy throws 3 strikes before a ball. in his next 4 pitches or 3 pitches, he has to throw 3 straight strikes. 1 ball mixed in, you walk. Sit there with the bat on your shoulder like you're Henry Rowan Gardner.
You're Garrett Hampson.
Don't even swing. Don't even try to bunt. He's not going to throw you a strike. And that's exactly what happened. 2 strikes and then ball 4. And he swung at ball 4. Would have been bases loaded. More so next. At noon, get his thoughts on new third baseman Michael Garcia. You know, you can't play third. You got to put him at second, you know, with the whole Massey thing. And third base, yeah, they're worse at 2 positions now defensively, but the whole third base, Massey comes back. Oh, Garcia's third baseman again. Like, such an unnecessary self-inflicted wound defensively when your calling card this year has been pitching and defense. Like, just no reason to make your team a lesser defensive team while adding nothing to the offense. You didn't add in Manny Ramirez, who you hope drives in more than he lets in.
but just a little bad rub.
Yeah, you know what? That's fine. It's just a couple games. So where do you fall on like I was talking about weighing this frustration versus optimism of yesterday's game specifically? Like, hey, they broke out the bats and they scored 10 runs yesterday against the Rockies after struggling for a couple of games. Is that optimistic and sort of an exhale of, okay, they did not get swept, they avoided that sweep at the hands of the worst team in baseball maybe, versus frustration of, good God, you scored 3 runs and then you bust out for 10, like you couldn't have a couple of those runs on Friday and Saturday? Like, how do you sort of view the weekend of avoiding a sweep, which is embarrassing in and of itself, getting 10 runs after the offense couldn't do anything for 18 innings?
I feel like I've run the gamut this season.
Yeah.
When this has happened the whole year, I've been like, okay, well, maybe this is just the launching out. This is launchpad. It's gonna get figured out offensively, and consistency's gonna come, and everything will be great. And then it kind of got into like, well, maybe this is a concern. And then it would have kept happening, so went to the frustration and angry part. And now it's just, I'm exhausted from it. It's maddening, and it's encouraging, and all those things are true, that you just keep coming around to the same thing, and they can look good against a really good pitcher like Corbin Burns early in the year, and you think, okay, it's there. And then you come into a series against the Rockies where the environment is hitter-friendly and these pitchers are not that good, and you lay eggs 2 out of 3 games, and then the doors get blown off in the 3rd game. So it's just exhausting, man. I've been very optimistic and encouraged by this fun year so far. They are playing competitive ball. They're in it. But, man, the inconsistency is just draining, and it just feels like this last month since the schedule kind of, got hard and then it's kind of lightened up, so quote-unquote, and it's just been exhausting. It's been a grind just to watch these games and see them underachieve on a consistent basis. So I'm exhausted, to be honest.
Josh, we have breaking news, big-time breaking news in Major League Baseball. I don't know if you've seen the news. I just got alerted to this right now. It was a question I was going to ask in the first couple of hours, but we ran out of time. I don't know how we do that, but listed on the format of things to talk about for me and Sterling and Jack and Dylan, and that was the question of, should Bobby Witt Jr. be in the Home Run Derby, whether we believe yes or no. The answer for him specifically is yes. Bobby Witt Jr. is in the Home Run Derby this year. Just came out, Bobby Witt Jr., a Home Run Derby participant. That means it's Alec Boehm, Gunnar Henderson, and Bobby Witt Jr. I haven't seen if anybody else has agreed or is a participant in the Home Run Derby, but your initial reaction in response to Bobby Witt Jr. participating in the Home Run Derby?
I am excited.
Hell yeah.
That's the first word I would use. Very excited to see the guy that we're all clamoring for go to his home and show out in front of his people. And it's very fun for the Kansas City Royals organization. That being said, I don't know if it's kind of telling that there's been more guys say, no, I'm not participating, like the Aaron Judges, the Juan Sotos. Those guys have already said they're not in. And more guys have said that than have actually committed to this. And I feel like that is a little bit of an asterisk here. But at the same time, you get to go against the guy who took over the AL shortstop spot for you in the All-Star game starting lineup, Gunnar Henderson. And those are both 2 guys that are absolute superstars and going to be awesome moving forward. Let's go ahead and start this rivalry off with an awesome Home Run Derby.
And you got 3 young stud players that are, one of the best younger players in the National League, and 2 of the best young, if not the 2 very best young shortstops. They are the 2 very best young shortstops in baseball. Well, people would argue Ellie, certainly in the American League, but Ellie and Bobby Witt and Gunnar Henderson. I think Ellie does some amazing things, and he is gifted with so much talent, but he strikes out at such a high rate, and he's batting like .230 or something this year. He does have 20 more stolen bases than the next guy, but still, I think it's Gunnar and Bobby as the 2 best young shortstops. And so, it doesn't have the name recognition of an Aaron Judge or a Juan Soto or something like that. But it has the, name recognition of the younger next generation of stud players in Bobby Witt, Gunnar Henderson, and Alec Boehm, and we'll see who else agrees to be a part of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I can totally understand why they would want to market that. I mean, it seems like we've had Julio Rodriguez in this like a couple years ago. Vlad Guerrero put on a great show a couple years ago. So they definitely like to market that young generation, especially if they are remotely deserving at this point. So good on Major League Baseball, and it does feel like it's a little bit of payback for the Robinson Cano, Billy Butler escapade back in the day. So it doesn't matter to me at this point if he deserves it or not. He's in, and now I think we are back to zero as far as Royals in the home run derby goes.
Do you think ESPN will pay attention while the Royals player is participating in that home run derby while it is their turn? Or will they have Alec Boehm at the dais and talking with him for that turn in the home run derby? Do you think they'll pay attention to the Royals player this go around?
There should be no stops all the stops should be pulled out when Bobby Witt Jr. is at the plate. They should only be talking about him and Gunnar Henderson and this young generation, those two being the faces of that. That's to be the only thing they should be talking about, and I'm going to throw a big hissy fit online if it's overlooked.
Randomly, they might just bring Pete Alonso out just to talk with him about why he's not participating in the. Let's talk with Pete Alonso, who's what's going on in these guys' heads. Background, you're hearing home run after home run, and Pete Alonso's talking about the rough start for the Mets this year and whether or not they're going to be he's going to be traded.
How bad the Mets are. Yeah, we need that.
That's looking forward to that. But no, that is awesome news. Another Royal in the home run derby in Bobby Witt Jr., who we know can put a charge into. He doesn't have the 26, 27 home runs that Gunnar Henderson has, but we know he can hit one 470. And so looking forward to that. And I know there's some questions about, does the guy, is his swing messed up after that? And I like the fact that they now have the 40-pitch max, because Aaron Judge talked about coming out of the home run derby when it was just swing as much as you can in the time limit, that his shoulder was sort of messed up. And it took a little time before that got right after the home run derby because he was just swinging and swinging. Now there is a time limit, but you're required to be a little more efficient, so you can take a little bit more time. The fewest amount of pitches of anybody last year was 43. Well, now the maximum is 40 or 27 in the final. So I'm a little more okay with a Royal participating rather than just get up there and just swing out of your shoes for 3 minutes or whatever. I'm okay with that, and I'm pumped. I cannot wait to watch it on Monday night.
Yeah.
So.
And if there's a body that could recover well and not require much rest, it's probably Bobby Witt Jr. Potentially with his youth and just his health in general. Knock on wood, has been pretty good. Yeah. So I agree. There's concerns there for sure. I love that he's going and how he's going. He had 3 bombs in the last week, so I think he's hot at the right time and may hopefully make some waves here.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. He's got a great body. So we can definitely
great body
with Bobby Witt. Josh Kaiser, One Royal Way podcast, is our guest. All right, All-Star selections. The Royals got 4 of them for next Tuesday's game. And I had a few takeaways from what it meant for the Royals to get all 4 of these players. Is there anything bigger picture, maybe macro, micro, whatever way you view it? Is there anything to glean or take away from the fact that the Royals got these 4 players into the All-Star game, and maybe one of them will be starting next Tuesday?
I mean, largely the feeling I had was that all of them were deserving and none of them were snubbed. And I think that I just have this weird complex, and I think a lot of people, especially in the Midwest, have this ship that we're going to get overlooked and our players are going to get overlooked every time it comes to a vote or any kind of accreditation. So the fact that we got the 4 guys that, made the best cases, they're obvious candidates, in my opinion, to make it, and they got in. So that was kind of the big thing that I took away from it. Jacked up that they were all kind of, acquired in different ways. It kind of does speak a little bit to, especially with Lugo and Reagan's being acquired under J.J. Piccolo's tutelage.
Yeah.
Those are certainly success stories and the big deals there. Bobby Witt Jr., he he was the next coming, the savior of the Royals kingdom, and he's looking to be a pan out, and then being able to celebrate Salvador Perez one more time. Everyone he adds to the shelf after this is just kind of gravy on top of it. So it's nice that all four of those guys get recognized. It's nice that they were all done, living up to expectations and being celebrated for what they've done, and all made obvious cases. So pumped about that for sure.
So those two observations I had, I had one more, but the two that you said, I totally agree. They were all deserving, and the way that they were acquired by international signing, draft pick and Bobby Witt, and then the trade for Cole Reagans and the free agent signing with Seth Lugo, especially those last two being with J.J. Piccolo as the GM. So those were two of the observations, and that they definitely were deserving. My third one was not only deserving, but you've got four guys, two starting pitchers, a catcher and a shortstop. So two position players and two starting pitchers that are deserving all-stars. You've got your number one and number two pitchers, and you've got your shortstop and catcher, your number 2 and 4 hitters in the lineup. And they're going to be on the team next year as well, at least. That was one of my other takeaways is, if we talk about this team being, all right, are they a legit contender to play for the playoffs? Were they just way out over their skis early in the season by being 15 games over 500 and now just sitting 6 games over 500? So this team's played 9 games under 500 since that 8-game winning streak. Who are the real Royals? What I can say definitively is that there's at least a foundation to build off over the next couple of years for J.J. Piccolo, that he's got two guys at the front end of his rotation, that he's got two position players that are at the heart of his defense and heart of his lineup to build off of, and now you got to fill in the ancillary pieces that are good enough to play with those guys so that you are a true contender for a playoff spot, and people aren't wondering if you're a pretender or if you just had a really hot May and now your hot May was something that you used to have in September. You just had it in May, which helps you stay in the race, but ultimately you're not going to be there in the end. Like, I think that's pretty crucial in that they didn't just get some random all-star. They got 4 guys who are core sort of pillars and foundational pieces for a team that can compete.
You've got 4 pillars. Get them some damn help, and this should not be an excuse anymore. It's going to be telling what they do between now and the trade deadline. And JJ has talked about, we want to commit this to the fans. We want to commit this to ourselves. We want to commit this to the players that, came in, believed in what we got. We owe it to all the people that we just talked about to go for it and not make, not waste this really, really good start. But you're right. It is nice to know that they've got 4 guys that are not, trade away candidates going into the trade deadline. You're probably not looking to trade any of those guys going into the off season. They're going to be around for the next 1 to 3 years. So you've got some stuff to work with. Get some help. Get some help so we can raise the floor of this team. Get some more consistent at bats in there. Get some bullpen help that's not going to blow games. That's going to keep you in tie games and close games. Just get some damn help so this inconsistency can just stop killing them. It's brutal to watch in this last month because of it. So it is very encouraging that they've got 4 deserving and obvious candidates that are now all-stars, but it's also very frustrating that this is what we've seen over the last month too.
Yeah, they didn't have I think it'd be different if it was a left fielder, a first baseman, and a relief pitcher. Like, oh, yeah, that's cool. You got 4 guys. It's a shortstop, catcher, and your 2 frontline starters that are, and one of them might be starting the game in 8 days from now.
Yep.
That's a little different.
That's a backbone of a contender. That's
right.
You've got, and that doesn't even mention Michael Wacha and Brady Singer, who you're probably both pretty comfortable with starting playoff games at this point. That doesn't include Vinny Pasquantino, who has been hitting a lot better than he is. That should get you somewhere. But the fact that you got the backbone to be a playoff contender is huge. That's like finding a quarterback in the NFL. If you have that, then the hardest block has been achieved. Go from there.
Well, and I think for a team like the Royals, the toughest part would be finding the bricks, and they've got those guys. The mortar you can fill in around it. Like the biggest part for the Angels was that, why didn't they win when they had Trout and Ohtani? And certainly injuries were part of that with Mike Trout. But they had these 2 bricks. How did you not put enough around them for you to go out and win. Well, the Royals, in a situation that they are with payroll and the economics of baseball, they've got 4 guys that are bricks. Now find the mortar that's good enough to support those bricks so that, you can go and compete and win and be a legit team, because they certainly have the pieces. And I think, and even with Brady Singer being in the discussion of whether or not, it's different catcher, shortstop, and 2 of your starting pitchers. Visiting with Josh Kaiser, One Royal Way podcast. Salvi joins George Brett, 1,500 hits and 250 home runs in Royals history. We debated it in the previous hour, the 4 of us, Sterling, Jack, Dylan, myself, of where Salvi ranks. I said maybe it's recency bias for me, maybe it's fandom for me, maybe it's being such a young kid, as in, 4 years old when he stopped playing with the Royals, and Amos Otis, as to why I put Salvi over Amos Otis as the second greatest Royal of all time. But I think Salvi's moved into the second best Royals player of all time. Is he there for you? Still have work to do for Salvi to be? And where would you put him in the history of Royals players now that he has passed that sort of marker of Salvi and George Brett, 1,500 hits and 250 home runs?
I mean, I'm with you. He's number 2 with a bullet, in my opinion. And to be completely honest with you, I don't know how close it is with AO. I know he had a great career, and I don't want to diminish anything to him Willie Wilson or Frank White or any of these guys did, but just the fact that Salvador Perez has been doing this as a Royal his whole career, he has the accolades, he has the stats, he has the reputation, he's got the longevity. It's all there, and I think the cherry on top, I think y'all mentioned it, was he's just the generation. He's this generation's guy. Like you were talking about George Brett, you think about him in the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s, and that covers a lot of range for a lot of folks. It also covers a lot of other players that were also very good and also had very good resumes as Royals as well. After George Brett, you don't really have that guy, and you can't really make a case outside of Salvador Perez. So if we're talking about like a PR standpoint, and everybody's going to be talking about this at the tavern, like, this person's better than Salvi, a bunch of these young ones don't know what they're talking about, it's Salvador Perez, and I don't think there's anybody that's particularly close to number 2.
Visiting with Josh Kaiser, One Royal Way podcast. All right, as far as the Royals go and this team with these final 5 games before the All-Star break, maybe it's just getting to the All-Star break for a couple of these guys, but for the time being and moving forward, Schreiber can't be in high leverage, right?
Agreed.
He can't
100%.
be a guy they go to for a while, right?
Yep, I think he needs to be pushed to purely a fireman utility role, and maybe not even in that role in high leverage situations. Yeah. It's
been rough for him. And another guy that they bring up, Chris Bubich, Walter Pennington. Pennington makes his Major League Baseball debut and gets out of a jam that Schreiber got into, and it was a great story. Hometown kid, team he grew up rooting for, parents there, gets a strikeout and a ground out. And then gets sent down for Chris Bubich. But, Josh, one of the positives that came for that is they had to find a way to put him on the 40. So now he's on the 40. So all of this talk about, Pennington, he's not on the 40-man roster. Well, he is now. All right? So at least that's taken place.
100%. I was always the guy with the goofy voice being like, 40 man. They seem to give a lot of guys lots of opportunities to prove that they weren't the guy, and they did that. They've done it all year, and here was finally Wally P's time. Even if he is still back down in Omaha and he's got to stay there for a little bit longer, I think he's going to eventually play a lot of games in Kansas City in the second half. But you're right. It is, the first step. It's no longer an excuse. He's going to be right there to be taken. He should be the next guy called up if there ever is a need for that. The only thing working against him now is there are roughly 75 left-handed arms in that bullpen right now, and that always is going to be a problem. But there are things that can happen, especially between now and the trade deadline, that arguably should happen, and I think that should absolutely open up a door for Walter Pennington to be added to this roster long-term.
Chris Bubich, what did you see from him in his first outing after Tommy John?
Looked good. The control with the fastball was a bit shaky, but he was living a lot up in the zone, and I think that is a great sign, especially for a guy that's used to pumping 94, 96. If his stuff can play up and he can play up in the zone and he can control it up there, that's going to be awesome for his changeup. It's going to be great for his curveball. Being able to tunnel off of those guys and mess with hitters on a regular basis is purely good for him. So he did get a little bit lost in the command, but overall I was very pleased with how he looked, and I love the fact that he's back and he looks healthy. He looks good. It was I just on a pure like baseball porn type of scenario. Chris Bubic's wind-up and the way he stands right before pre-pitch is one of my favorites in baseball right now. So I'm just happy to see him on the mound, period.
The last one for you, it was one relief outing, and if there's a difference between relief outing and being a starter, was the adrenaline pumping for him in averaging 94 miles an hour on his fastball, whereas he's averaged around 91, 92 for his career, so 2 miles an hour faster than what his average has been. It's one inning and it's 11 pitches that he threw that were averaging at 94. Yeah. His changeup was also 2.5 miles an hour faster than what his career average has been. Is that the adrenaline for Chris Bubic and back since Tommy John, or is that one inning bullpen Chris Bubic? Because if so, like that gets me pumped. If that guy's changeup can be coming in at 85 with the movement that it has, and his fastball he can work 94, 95 as opposed to 90, 91. If you're guessing, is that bullpen Chris Bubic that can only it doesn't have to be pitch efficient, or adrenaline pumped Chris Bubic?
I am taking door number 3 and saying that is right where Chris Bubic wants to live. Right before the injury, which you could say, there's plenty of evidence saying that, like, you get a velo bump right before the arm goes, and it's kind of what we were chalking it up to. But all through these minor league rehab stints where he was starting and throwing, 40, 50, 60, 70 pitches, he was still living around 94, 95, sitting at 94, 95. So I think it's just who Chris Bubic is. I think that's just – I don't even know how much of it was adrenaline as far as the velo goes, because he was starting games and still hitting that same velo. So I think this is just who Chris Bubic is, and even in the bullpen, you might be able to see some 97s come out of there, which would be very, very fun. So that might be adrenaline driven, but that could get me pretty pumped up to see Chris Bubic hitting 97 again, which is where he was prior to the injury. So. Yep. I'm very excited about Chris Bubic.
That's awesome. We'll see what ends up happening. Josh Kaiser, One Royal Way podcast. Josh, we will talk next week. Getting ready for the Home Run Derby that Bobby Witt Jr. is now officially a part of. Josh, you're the man. Appreciate it, brother.
Yeah, Josh, we're going to need you to come on and have breaking news next time as well, because it's kind of a dead period of the offseason. So,
let's do it.
High bar you set today.
Breaking news next Monday at noon. Figure it out, Josh. So.
Okay, I'll see what I can do, even if it's made up and completely false. I'm going to find something.
That's fine.
Gives us something to work on. We can
absolutely.
go and debunk or figure out if it's true.
The next 2 hours, like, was that real or not? Let's find out. Let's fact check in real time. A lot of people don't want to do that.
I'm going to find the next digit in pi between now and then, and that's going to set the world on fire.
There we go.
There it is. We'll find that 300th digit. Josh, you're the man. Appreciate it, brother.
Thanks, boys. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. There's Josh Kaiser, One Royal Way podcast, joining us. And, yes, the news that broke as we started the conversation with Josh is that Bobby Witt Jr. has officially been included in the participants for the Home Run Derby with Gunnar Henderson and Alec Boehm. Now it is Bobby Witt Jr. So
Bobby Bonds.
Bobby Bonds. That's right. No, that's Bobby Bombs. I see what you said.
Yeah,
I said
Bonds.
I said Bonds because just that's.
That
wasn't I didn't do that on purpose. That was just Bobby Bonds came to mind when I was saying Bobby Bond, and then my mind just took over. It's like, well, you're clearly saying Bobby Bonds because that's the only time you've said that in my past. But Bobby Bombs, I see Bobby Baseball and Bobby Bombs.
It's also Bobby Gibson now. As well.
Yep.
With
there you go.
With the addition of the NLB stats. So
yes.
Bobby Gibson.
So Bobby Gibson and Bobby Witt Jr., Alec Boehm, Gunnar Henderson, 3 of the best young players in baseball, are going to be participating in the Home Run Derby on Monday night, and we'll see the other 5 eventually. We'll have to decide who's going to be in it.
Are you concerned?
Yes.
I'm not. Are you concerned?
Very much so. Finish the question, sorry.
About stepping on seashells.
Yes.
Okay.
Always one of my concerns.
Yeah.
Why don't I hear the ocean in the seashells like other people do?
You got bad ears.
Why can't I see the sailboat? Mallrats. Anyway, go ahead.
That is something
Not a
that wasn't
sailboat.
radio appropriate there. And then sometimes you're just like, you know what?
It's not a sailboat, it's a schooner.
Glossing.
You know what? Schooner is a
Glossing.
sailboat, idiot. Anyway, go ahead.
Bobby Abreu is always the guy that comes to mind as a guy who wasn't predominantly a home run hitter, but then did the home run derby. He won in 05, and then he complained about his swing getting off the second half of the season. You look at the numbers, actually, he still put up some pretty damn good numbers the rest of his career.
He was just unbelievable the first half, so
Yeah,
maybe the second half was who Bobby Abreu was
he
closer
did have
to
a
be.
good, but prior to that 4 or 5 year stretch was the best 5 year stretch. Also coincided with him, I don't know, being in his prime, baseball age-wise, and for some reason him thinking at 33, all of a sudden he's like, no, I'm not the same as I was when I was 28.
But isn't that the one that everybody goes to? It's like, well, I've heard that the home run derby can mess up your swing. Well, who did that happen to? Bobby Abreu. Right, because Bobby Abreu was the one that said it messed up his swing. Aaron Judge said that it hurt his shoulder swinging as much as he did, constantly, like over and over, because they were swinging for max amount of swings because it was a time limit, which having a combination time limit, max pitch, you're not going to be swinging out of your shoes constantly and just trying to swing and swing and swing as hard as you can. And minimum 43 pitches that people saw last year.
Yeah.
That you're going to be more efficient with those swings. I'm a little less concerned about it. And Bobby Witt's swing is just pure.
Bobby's was too. Abreu. I think it's something with you. If your name is Bobby, you have to have a good swing.
Yeah.
Gotta have a good swing.
But he blamed his second half struggles on the home run derby.
Yeah. Which could also be labeled as soft, some would say. Or a easy excuse to make when things are not going your way.
Totally. He had an MVP first half that year.
Yeah.
Like he was MVP caliber player that first half. And then he came back to earth of what was closer to Bobby Abreu's career in the second half. And his numbers ended up looking like the back of his baseball card. As Monty would say. Look at the end of the season, guy's numbers probably going to look like the back of his baseball card. And Abreu's numbers looked like the back of his baseball card that year. It's just the first half, he was like, the best player in baseball.
Yeah.
And then the home run derby happened, and then he didn't do as well the second half, and it was the home run derby's fault.
Didn't the Phillies still win the World Series that year? Or was that?
Oh, I don't.
It would have to be 09.
Yeah, that was 05.
Or my
Never
bad,
mind.
my bad. Jeez, what was Phillies? Was that?
That was White Sox was 05.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Jermaine Dye.
I think it
in
was
the
my
house.
bad. 08. Because Red Sox was 07 and Yankees was 09.
And I'm sure Phillies fans were very reasonable in regards to 05 when he had the second half struggles, right?
Do you think
Phillies fans known for being reasonable?
So what year? That was 2005 that he did that?
Yeah.
Okay. Really?
5 was
Well, he won the world. He won the home run derby in 05.
5 was the White Sox. You're right. 6 was Cardinals. 7 Red Sox. I think 8 was Phillies.
Was Phillies because the 9 was
Yankees.
Yankees. Yeah.
And 10 started the Giants dynasty.
Whatever.
I
Well, that
know,
was
I know,
11.
I know.
11 started the Giants because they were odd years, right? 11, 13, 15.
That was even. It was 10.
What are you doing?
12,
Oh, yeah,
14.
right.
Well,
10,
I thought
12,
you were making
14,
like a
yes.
joke.
No, I'm not. I was like, no, it was even years, 10, 12, 14, of course.
I almost
But I'm
just
sitting there
jumped
going,
over the table and
right, I'm sitting there
spilled
going,
my coffee.
As soon as I said 15, I'm like, no, of course it wasn't 15. It was 14.
Blasphemy.
Yes, I know. God.
He's
you
a
know?
witch.
I don't even. Did the Giants play? Have the Giants done anything since then? They ruined. Yeah, you get one more World Series and then you're done. We've run it more recently. Take that, Cove.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're right. 10, 12, 14 that it started.
Do you think it's because of kind of
2011 was UConn though.
yes, that actually is true. Yeah.
Yeah. I know that. Kimball Walker in the house.
Because 12 was
Cardinals.
Kentucky.
Nope, that was
Cardinals.
Kimball Walker in 11. 14 was Shabazz Napier.
Boom.
Yeah.
Do
He
you-
was starving too. He didn't eat at night.
Do you think it's remember kind of how people are like, oh, the Super Bowl team, everyone gets all the film and watches them constantly, so then they kind of get a diagnosis of what beats them. Do you think these people watch their swing path and see, oh, this is kind of a spot where he wants it when they're doing batting practice, he likes this, his swing is better when the ball is placed here. Do you think that contributes a little bit to it as far as,
I don't know.
maybe teams seeing where swing paths work and don't?
Note,
I don't know.
don't
Yeah.
throw 60-mile-an-hour BP to guy.
Right.
I
I'm
think-
saying though the location.
But
No, I get it. Yeah,
I just
it's-
think those three guys, like right now, like it really doesn't matter where you put it. I don't know what the heat map says for those three guys, but with the way they're swinging the bat and how good they are and how just uber talented they are, in today's day and age where the ball has so much movement and speed and break and all of that stuff, like the stuff of today and those guys being able to barrel it up as often as they do, like it's pretty ridiculous the talent level those guys have. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, continue rolling more zone next. So going into the All-Star break that year, I mean, if you just look at pre and post All-Star break for Abreu, before the All-Star break, the man was batting .307, .430 on base percentage, and slugging .526. So he was OPSing at .955, and he had 18 home runs, 17 doubles heading to the All-Star break. Post All-Star break, he batted .260, got on base at .376, only slugged .411 with 6 home runs and 20 doubles and a triple. He was OPSing at 200 points lower.
Still a pretty good stretch, though,
Right.
honestly.
But here's what gets ignored by Bobby Abreu is that those crazy numbers pre-All-Star was essentially April and May and the first week of June. His last 30 games before the All-Star break, he batted .260 with only 2 home runs. So he hit 16 home runs in his first 40 games. 40, 50 games, whatever.
Yeah.
And then his last 30 games before the All-Star break, he hit 2 home runs and batted .260. So post first week of June, he was the same guy the rest of the year. He was a .260 hitter the rest of the year. He was a .260 hitter post All-Star break, and he was a .260 hitter the last 30 games before the All-Star break. It's just easy to say, look at my numbers pre and post All-Star break. It was the home run derby. I hit 18 home runs before the All-Star break. I hit 6 after. Right, but you can also say that you hit 16 home runs in your first 50 games, and you hit 8 the last 110. So you can blame it on the All-Star game all you want, but your previous month, it also sucked. It also wasn't great. Okay. So I look at the Bobby Abreu in a different light than a lot of people do. I think it's more of an excuse than this guy's whole swing.
I
was
think
messed up,
you're right. I mean,
yeah. But we're talking about it because Bobby Witt has
the same name.
been announced. And they're both juniors. It was Bobby Abreu Jr., right? I have no idea. I don't think it was. But Bobby Witt Jr. is now officially a participant in the Home Run Derby coming up next week. And it's cool because childhood stadium, right? Grew up around there. It's going to be in a home run derby there in Texas.
I
in
wasn't gonna
Dallas.
watch, and now I am. So even more viewers.
I love the
too.
home run derby.
Yeah.
I do. The change that they have to have, and this is, I don't know why they stopped doing this. I need the distance when the ball lands.
Oh, yes.
Like 5 years ago, they stopped giving the ball used to land with a number next to it. And so you would see how far the ball was hit, like almost like in real time.
Did they stop that?
Yes.
Last year, I noticed it.
Wait, why?
Yeah, like 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
I didn't notice it first.
Oh,
but
dude,
yeah.
it's been my
Last
complaint
year
for like
was-
2-3 years.
Yeah.
And the issue you run into with the time and not the pitches was that the counter was like 2 or 3
Yes,
home
that
runs
used
behind.
to always drive me
Yes.
insane.
It's like he's at 16, but like there's been 2 more home runs that have hit, and then the time limits, or he calls a timeout, right? Then he said, and then all of a sudden it jumps up 3 home
and
runs.
the
It's
numbers
like-
are still going. Like, he hasn't even been hitting.
Yeah. ESPN2, I think, does the advanced analytics, but that's going to be like launch angle, exit velocity, things like that. It still doesn't give the distance,
Which
in
matters
real time.
because you're giving
Yeah.
extra time,
But not
based
this
off
year now.
distance. I know, but even when it did matter.
Yeah, but it mattered. Yeah, and that's part of the home run derby was seeing how far people would hit them.
Yes.
Because I don't have a point of reference in these different stadiums. At Kauffman Stadium, I have a point of reference.
Yeah.
If you hit it over the fountains, good God, you got into that one. You hit it over the batter's eye in center field, good God, you got into that one. You hit it up the grass, up the hill, left of the fountains. You got into that one. You hit it over the bullpen to the Hall of Fame. You got it. Like I have the reference points of how far those are at Kauffman Stadium.
Hit the Dodge Ram.
Right? Yes. I don't have the reference points there in Texas or the other stadiums.
you
And so
hit it in
without
the
a number.
You hit to the second deck at Yankees. You hit it 330. Like,
The short porch in right field. I mean,
I mean, with second deck, he got all that one 330.
you hit it into the second deck in Old Tiger Stadium. It might have been a pop out. It might have been it might have been caught at the warning track. Just the overhang was just such a
Polo ground. You know what they should do? Polo grounds.
Oh,
You
gosh.
can't hit to center field.
Oh,
You can
no way,
only go
man.
left or right. Bring back polo grounds.
Damn rectangle, man.
Yeah, whose idea was to make a stadium on a foot like literally it's
Well, yeah,
a
they
They tried to do
football?
it at Walnut.
It's a football field.
Actually.
Yeah, you had to fit it into the. It was the space you had to work with.
It's like a football
They
field.
tried to do it downtown this summer.
Yeah, that's right. How are we gonna fit it in the space? I don't know.
Trapezoid. What's going on here?
Figure it out, man.
It's a
We'll-
rhombus.
We'll try to find this thing, But yeah, the distance matters. It doesn't matter as much this year, and it isn't 445. I think it's
425 or something like that.
425,
It wasn't
I think.
quite as
Even if the distance isn't a part of it, you're right. It matters because everyone's hitting home runs. We need to know who's hitting it the farthest.
yeah, like who got a hold of that one? Like,
Yes.
oh my goodness, he crushed. That was 470.
Right.
Are you kidding me? Like it's like Ellie De La Cruz, who I would love to be in the home run derby.
Yeah.
I think Ellie should be in
There's
the home
like
run
4 or
derby.
5 people that are
Yeah.
just like not doing it that should be in it.
Ellie De La Cruz hit one that I've never, at least from worked at a station that was the affiliate of the Reds for 10 years and watched a lot of Reds games. I've never seen a home run in center field at Great America Ballpark in Cincinnati that went so far in center field that it landed on sort of the boat.
Wow,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know what you're talking
And
about.
he hit one a couple of weekends ago that landed up there, and it was like, oh my! It was like 460,
Yeah.
450, 460. So he mashed it, right? So we've seen some home runs that are, 450,
sure.
460.
Adam Dunn maybe.
But
Shohei has one every night.
but
it was like,
dead center field in that area where it's just over the batter's eye, and then it's got to go up a little bit, and then there's just that area that people can walk and sit, and it landed up there, and like I've never seen a ball hit up there. Now what was amazing was that O'Neal Cruz the next inning hit one 475 into right center.
I was just about to say, how about get O'Neal and Ellie, both the cruises in there?
O'Neal, but it was just, we've seen a ball hit to right center at Great America Ballpark. I've never seen one hit to the boat in center field.
Well, it's like Kyle Schwarber in the playoffs when he hit that one that went on the score. You're like, we have
Yes.
never seen. It might not be the farthest we've seen,
Yeah.
but we've never seen a ball there.
Kyle Schwarber hit the farthest ball I've ever seen hit in person in college when he played at Indiana, and
that must have been fun watching
he
that.
He hit one.
Oh my
was,
gosh,
they
a
were
metal bat.
they were playing Louisville, and in center field, and then a little bit past center field is the parking lot for the football stadium. So just in right field is the football stadium. That's the backdrop. He hit one in center field that went past the area between and landed in the parking lot and just bouncing. It might still be going. Like it was Tin Cup. The driving, it was Tin Cup. He went right down the road and drove it that way. Like, I would love to see the tape measure of when it stopped rolling.
Yeah.
Like, where it was when it stopped. You know, they hit it on Waveland Avenue from time to time, right? It's like, oh, but then you got people in front of it that are stopping it. Like, this thing landed and just bounced. And it was like, everybody sat there with their jaws open. Like, this is a college kid. I know they're hitting with these bats. And at that time, the bats were a little less than what they are now. Like, because that was the dead ball era of college baseball.
They had, because college baseball had like the crazy bats, and then they went to the
extreme. TD America went longer fences at the same time college baseball said, we need to draw back on these bats. Yeah. And it went from ping and all these home runs to 1-0, leadoff single in the 6th, bunt them over to second.
Yeah. And
it was awful. And Schwarber hit it with those bats. Imagine the back in the day bats that were, as hot as a pistol, right? Yeah. Imagine those bats, how far he would have hit one. Like, I don't want to be a pitcher of Kyle Schwarber.
I was going to say, if you're a pitcher, you just walk him. I want my life.
That dude just had some crazy, crazy power, man. It was awesome, man. But yeah, I want to see how far these home runs are. But we'll take a timeout, come back, continue rolling. More Zone next. got to learn funniest best coming up. Bobby Witt Jr. officially a part of the Home Run Derby. They need 5 more participants. Looking for 5 more volunteers.
Yeah, that's why I said I wasn't watching. I love the Home Run Derby.
Yeah.
Why are the players that should be there not there?
I agree. It's like the
To your point about Ellie De La Cruz.
the slam dunk competition. You know.
Yep. That's what it's turning into.
Need some slam dunking. But yeah, I mean, if it was a Judge and Otani and Ellie and O'Neal, who's got
Be appointment television.
2 or 3 of the hardest hit balls exit velocity this year, and Bobby and Gunnar and Alec Boehm, like all of those guys, that'd be fun. We'll see who the other 5 participants are going to be in the Home Run Derby. We'll take a timeout, come back. We know a participant in the next hour is going to be Mick Schaefer next.
Foods.com.
All right, hanging out on a Monday edition of the show. Mick Schaefer, KSHB 41 Sports Director, hanging out with us. Mick, what's up, brother?
Good to see you.
Yeah,
Nothing much.
Good to be seen.
So much, but nothing much.
Yep, absolutely.
Monday, we're just rolling along. We're past that midway point for this year. We're all just killing time until we die. We're just finding stuff to do, and this is what I've chosen. What we've all chosen to do for the next hour or so.
From 1 until 2, our choice is this.
All of our decisions in life have led to this right here.
That's exactly right. It's crazy. It's like the flip of the coin. No, actually, everything that you've done.
This is no country for old men.
This is no country for old men, right?
We might
there.
just catch it in the forehead by one of those things that kill cattle.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Maybe put a potato on there. I'm not sure what you're going to be doing. I
Great
have no
book.
idea.
Great book.
Anyway,
Oh,
Mick.
boy. Oh, my God.
Anyway, Mick.
Sterling's still here.
How was the weekend? You got a 4-day weekend, right? Got Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
That'd be 5.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So completely off, right? You're good.
I had a 3-day weekend. I
Hey.
took yesterday off.
Good for you.
Worked on the 4th, floated that to the Sunday,
Hell
and
yeah.
here we go.
Good for you.
Refreshed. Oh, listen,
Good.
I need to like no more weekend for a little bit. Yeah, there was because I enjoyed my 4th too. It's 4 straight days. But the Kenny and Zach Brown band concert on Saturday. Yeah,
Oh, did you go to that?
I did.
Wow.
Did everybody in your Facebook went to that? If you're on Facebook, everybody went there.
KC and KC.
KC
was in
KC.
KC,
He loves KC.
He does love KC, and KC loves KC
Yeah,
by
and
showing out.
and-
Did you tear up during Boys of Fall?
oh, I have a Boys of Fall story. So my buddy, we all have
Boys
a
of
buddy.
Summer. That was a great book.
We have a buddy who's the concert guy, right? He's always looking up set lists and he knows everything. And he's telling me, like, well, he's not going to play Boys of Fall. I'm like, are you kidding me? He played last time 2 years ago. Played Boys of Fall. It's Boys of Fall. Everybody, he always played Boys of Fall.
What's the point of
And he's like, no, he's been playing the exact same set list every show this tour. I'm like, that's BS. No way. And sure enough, he has the set list out. First 12 songs are the exact same as before. I'm like, dang it, no Boys of Fall. And then all of a sudden, late in the show,
Oh, really?
little curveball's like, you know what? I can't be here in Kansas City and not play Boys of Fall, and the place erupts. He didn't usually on the side screens. He has the video and all the pictures and the old school, high school Friday football lights pictures and a shot of him playing football as like a 5'4" defensive back. And he didn't have that because I really think it was just like an impromptu, just we're throwing it in there. And then they brought out the Lombardi Trophy.
Well, then it can't be that
Two
impromptu.
Chiefs, two Chiefs representatives brought it out. Guess who they were?
Oh, I know who they were.
You do?
Oh, okay. I don't know.
I bet I was the only one in the stadium who knew who they were.
I looked at him like, oh, that's pretty awesome that they get to bring the.
Or they're just the only ones left in town.
Or they're the only ones left in town.
Justin Watson.
Oh, no, they weren't players.
They weren't players.
Oh, they weren't players.
No.
Oh, no.
They're
Okay.
around the players a lot.
Yes.
They have a lot to do with the players. Need these guys.
Alan Wright.
Bobby
Who'd you say?
Alan Wright.
Alan Wright.
Boom, that's one of
That's
them.
one.
Oh, wow,
Was it-
really?
Was
Yep.
it Bobby?
Right.
Bobby Strope?
Bobby Witt was not one of them.
Nope.
Was it Matt McMullen?
It was not a coach.
Nope.
Brad G.
That would have been hilarious. That would have been hilarious. But no. You see him, he stands next to Andy Reid pregame every single game in midfield, and they have a discussion. And he
The
gets mentioned.
referee.
He gets mentioned in like every press conference. You're gonna have to ask this guy, but
Ted
he's not
Cruz.
available.
Ted.
No. We ask a question about health. You have to ask him. Well, he's not available. We can't ask him.
Oh, Rick Burkholder.
Rick Burkholder.
You're going to have to ask Rick about
Those
that
two,
one.
yeah.
I
And,
wonder if Kenny Chesney asked Rick about a lot of the things that we would like to ask
I'm just
Rick
sitting
about.
there smiling. They're like, "Who's that?" I'm like, "That's Alan, right? That's Rick Burkholder." They're like, "Who are those guys?" I'm like, "Exactly." Everybody, all the other Chiefs are in Europe or going to Lake Tahoe or on vacation, I guess. So there they were. I bet they had a great time. I'm happy for those two. Good to be out there on stage at the end of Boys of Fall.
I'm picturing Mick Schaefer during the concert.
Did you wear that exact outfit, by the way?
I hope so.
No.
But I'm picturing Mick
Something
Schaefer
much better.
at this
Yeah,
concert
the
at
boots and
Arrowhead.
the jeans on.
That he wants the Boys of Fall, and I'm now picturing the Catalina wine mixer when
Yeah.
we didn't start the fire, sir. We strictly play '80s Joel Piano Man. Boys
Only-
of Fall.
Only
Sir.
2000 aughts. Kenny Chesney is all we're playing. Okay.
Sir, I have a set list that we've played the whole time. Boys of Fall.
Keg in
We're
the closet.
strictly playing 2000 catalog Kenny Chesney. Sorry.
Keg in the closet.
Yeah, a lot of people that I know were there. We're heading to Tahoe this week. My wife is going as well. So the kids are
Your wife and your boyfriend.
That's right. My show wife.
Yes, show wife,
And
show husband, and real wife.
Show husband and real wife.
Sorry, Dylan. I don't know your show side piece or something
He's
like
my
that.
show side piece.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, he's.
I know my place.
He's
Wow.
the
Where's my ring?
He's
I
the
did buy
show
this shirt
dream.
actually to wear, and I decided not to.
He's
Well, don't say anything yet because that's going to be something later.
He's
on.
okay,
the
good,
show
good.
dream. One day. But one of my buddies that
Show candy.
lives in Nashville. He's like, hey, dude, I'm coming in town for the concert. I've got a couple of extras in VIP for Kenny Chesney. Can you guys go? And I'm like,
That was for Saturday?
Yeah. And I'm like, if we weren't gone for a whole week and I didn't have like 4 hours to try to find a babysitter and then we're not going to run the kids, I'm like,
Dude, I could
Literally-
have totally babysat your
yeah,
kids.
but like, like 4 or 5 hours.
Live in
like,
Sterling.
any other weekend. I didn't want to just
Go
hand them
sit
off
there
to
and read books and drink
Yeah, but
whiskey.
I
They'll
didn't
be
wanna-
bored out of their minds.
I didn't want to hand them off to Sterling and then not see them ever again. You know what I mean?
No. I'm gonna.
Wasn't worth it.
I will give them a weed eater and say, "Get at it, kids." Like I will put them to work.
They'll weed eat, read books, and hear his bros golf stories. And like, Daddy, don't ever leave.
wasn't worth it. I could have shot an 83, turned into a 93.
That's exactly it.
Yeah, no, it would have been awesome to go, but that did not happen. But still,
So you
great
were just
weekend.
invited, or you and your wife? were
Me and my
invited?
wife.
Oh, well, yeah.
were invited. Yeah. So she would have enjoyed
I
it
feel
way
like
more
that.
than I
Yeah.
would have. But yeah, so it was. As I said, next time. You know
We'll
what?
be here in a year or two, probably back.
You know what? Yesterday was the 1-year anniversary of.
Yes.
do know?
Yes, I do. Yes, yesterday was the 1-year anniversary
you guys know?
of July 7th, 2023.
That's exactly right. Dylan, Sterling, you know what the 1-year anniversary of yesterday was?
Should we?
When Dylan joined this show,
Ooh,
Nope.
No.
Nope, that is not right. I would remember that. Everybody would be throwing a
everybody
party.
remembers that.
There would be confetti and everything in here.
I
We'd
don't
have a
know. I
cake.
just knew the date.
It is July 7th, 2023 was Taylor Swift's concert at Arrowhead when the whole thing started.
Wow, I should have.
When Kelsey could
Surprising
not
pup.
get the number to Taylor Swift, and the whole thing started as of last night,
how was Kenny Chesney
last
involved?
year. He was not. He was not involved. But just the 1-year anniversary of the Taylor Swift Eras Tour was July 7th, 2023 at Arrowhead Stadium, and Travis Kelsey could not get the number. And then July 26th is when the podcast came out that we found out that Travis Kelsey tried to give the number. So that's coming up in 18 days from now.
Hit
when
a
that whole thing
year.
started.
Yeah, about to hit a year.
Yeah, which is crazy because, the Royals yesterday won their 49th game. They won their 49th game last year. Any guesses on that? When they won their 49th game?
Probably
they won
September 20th.
because they
probably
won
something like that.
56 games last
Well,
year.
well, before they hit this last skid, so as of July 4th, they still had a shot at winning as many games before the All-Star break as they did all of last year. They screwed that up this weekend.
would have been awesome. September 18th of 23, which, to give some perspective,
Those are different months.
that was the day after the Chiefs beat Jacksonville in Week 2.
Oh, wow.
And 6 days away from Taylor Swift showing up to Arrowhead Stadium for the first time.
Wow.
That's
Bears
how long ago. They've already won their 49th game, and that was the week of the Bears game. that they
So
won,
wait,
game
are you saying the
49.
Royals are playing better or the Chiefs are late to start their season?
Chiefs? Why have they not
I
started
don't know
yet?
why. I don't know why.
Yeah, I mean Taylor Swift's going to be at almost every single game this year. She's going to attend almost every single game. She's going to be
So
living.
what the Wags do?
Yeah, she's living with Kelsey starting August 20th. She's just moving in.
Is that for real?
Yeah, once she's got a break in her tour, and from August until November, and she's moving in with Kelsey to do the decorating of when they
How do
ultimately
you
move
know
in together.
this?
Yeah.
Why do you not know this?
Why do
Why
I
are you
care?
not following?
Proud not to know it.
Why,
Yeah, why
do
would
you,
I care?
Why would you care? It's the most famous couple in the world, and they live in our backyard now. And Taylor Swift, when they get married, is going to be living in Kansas City. It's going to be Patrick Mahomes, Travis
We're gonna
Kelce,
see
and
her hen
Taylor
house.
Swift in our backyard.
Neat.
Why should you care?
Well, will
you
she give
kidding
me a glass of milk or some
I hope-
sugar when I go and need
Why
something?
why do you want her to make something for you in the kitchen? Why is the
no,
first thing you
I
think
would
of
go
Taylor Swift
borrow
is something
sugar.
you would get
like
from the
I'd
kitchen?
borrow flour.
That's odd. Taylor Swift is a working woman, Harrison. She can do a lot of different things. She can do anything she wants, you know?
It's their personal life, Jason. Let them be, dude.
No, but I was looking it up, and I'm like, because he's going to be done with training camp at that time.
Yeah.
And she's going to be at like every game, including, how about this? She's going to go to the Buffalo game in like week 12 because she's wrapping up her concert in Toronto the night before. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that awesome? Like, she's going to be at Buffalo again.
It's amazing you know all of her concert dates and you're guessing at everything else.
I looked it up yesterday.
So how was Kenny
Because
Chesney?
something came across my timeline that was like Taylor Swift is moving in with Travis during her break. I'm like, well, when's the break? Like, I'm just curious. I'm like, oh, her last concert's August 20th in like the European. I'm like, yeah, but when did they break camp? Oh, okay, yeah, they break camp before that. So yeah, let me live in there. I'm like, well, shoot, November. Like, that's a long. Like, look at all these different games. I'm like, oh, yep, she's Buffalo is the first game she won't be able to go to. Like, well, actually, she's playing in Toronto, so she'll even be at the Week 12 game.
Right there.
It just happened to be like 2 minutes of research.
Let's just piss off everyone.
Let's do it.
Is Taylor Swift the Bob Dylan of this generation?
Why is that?
Great songwriter.
Oh,
She's a great songwriter.
Great songwriter. I mean,
Yeah.
Shake it off.
Well, I can understand her words, so
I guess
she's
yeah.
already an improvement.
Yeah, that's true.
Have you seen the?
haters gonna hate, 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 hate.
I bet he's got a good Dylan impression. I'm gonna let him
Well,
go.
Dylan-
I'm gonna let him
Anyway,
cook.
Go ahead. No, I'm not gonna cook.
Have you seen
anymore.
the Owen Mills picture of what Travis and Taylor would look like 70 pounds heavier? This is what they would look like in KCK.
Yes.
And then Antonio Brown retweeted it.
I saw the Antonio Brown retweet. I saw the Antonio Brown retweet. That's how I saw it.
great.
It was Antonio Brown, because I looked at him like, what is this?
Oh, I recognize those two.
That's the picture. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Bobby Witt Jr., Home Run Derby.
Love
Rick. Heck yeah. We talked about it on Wednesday, right? Did we actually get into the conversation on Wednesday at Rosedale Barbecue about whether or not we wanted Bobby? Or we talked
I was
about
late
Salvi.
for it. I think I was hearing you guys talk about it because you
Yeah,
were
we
talking about.
talked about it.
No,
That's
we
right.
did. We talked about where he ranked as far as AL guys go, and so
And
that's
whether
kind of a surprise. I'm kind of surprised.
And whether Salvi might get the invite,
Yeah.
so they would actually pay attention to Salvi hitting this time.
Yeah,
but
I don't care about that.
I know you don't.
No, I do. They don't though. ESPN. That's not on the radar.
Right. Absolutely, yes. But really bothered me at the time, a lot of us. But yeah, this is awesome. I'm pumped that he's a part of it. Absolutely.
It's back in his hometown.
Yep.
Right, and I wonder. I've never been out there for BP for him. I wonder if he's like one of those sneaky great BP home run guys. Right. They can just he's got the bat speed, right? I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna change that launch angle just a little bit of uppercut swing. I'm gonna have him pipe him in here, right? A little inside high, so I can turn on him. I wonder if he's one of those guys. We'll find out.
Who started at DH last year? I know this is random, but
Jordan Alvarez, probably.
No, I meant for the Royals. Sorry, not for the All-Star, but
you
for the
were
Royals last year. It was a dude they got, and he
Ken
was
Harvey was there for a long time.
no,
last year.
Yeah, last year. It was a name that like had sucked the last couple of years, but then the Royals took a chance on him.
Yes, it was.
Lucas Duda.
No,
Was it Carlos Santana?
Nope.
Nope.
That was.
I was thinking of Santana then.
A few years ago.
Was it Nelson Velasquez?
Damn it. Franmil Reyes.
Oh yeah, right.
Franmil Reyes.
A little bit, yeah.
Franmil Reyes.
Franimal.
Reyes was a batting practice superstar. Like, he would be every other swing in the fountains.
Yeah.
Like, just batting. Hey, you got to go to BP to watch Franmil Reyes. Just fountains, and then strikeouts during the game. He never actually got a hold of one in the game, but he was a guy that you're talking about. Like, I don't know what Bobby Witt looks like in batting practice if he does that, but Franmil Reyes was a BP All-Star.
Right, yeah. I mean, if you have the strength and everything, BP, that's no big
Yeah.
deal, right? I'm going to turn on it. And I think Bobby has the strength. He certainly has the bat speed to where, like, okay, just adjust that swing a little bit, and he can launch him out of there. I'm excited. How many on the American League side?
There's 4 and 4.
4 and 4.
There's 4 and 4, and so right now we've got 3. Right? We just have 2 American League and 1 National League. It's just been
And Pete Alonso.
Pete Alonso was already agreed to do it.
I believe so, yeah.
I
So
guess I
it's
didn't see that.
Gunnar,
sorry.
it's Bobby on the American League side.
And it's Boehm for the Phillies on the National League side, but I didn't see Pete Alonso, so my bad if he's agreed to do it.
Yeah, I
The
thought-
Judge has already said he's not doing it.
Judge is not doing it. Otani said he's not doing it. What did Ellie Dela Cruz say he's not doing it already?
Pete Alonso's joining, yeah.
Okay, so there's 4. So you got 2 in the National League and 2 in the American League right now.
Thank God baseball's getting like basketball, like the coolest part of like your All-Star game. The stars don't want to do it.
Yeah.
We don't want to do dunk contest. We're not going to do a home run derby. All right, thanks guys. Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
appreciate it. That's really really cool of you guys. The dimensions for the Rangers. 329 down the line.
Here we go.
334 that then goes to a corner, but then it comes in. It doesn't just go in like it sort of like comes into left center. So it's like 350 to 370 instead of like 330 to 380, right?
Bandbox.
So left field, and then dead center is 407, but just to the right. So just to the right of dead center and just to the left of dead center is 410. So kind of a corner at that point. And then 326 down the right field line and 374 to right field.
So you want to pull. You want to be a righty.
So
You want to be a righty that pulls, yes.
You want to be a right-handed hitter. So 374 to right field, 334, 355 in left field.
If you're a lefty, really pull it.
Yeah, for sure. If you're a lefty, go the other way. Go opposite field.
Oppo.
Yeah.
Close stance. Start
yeah.
knocking them that way.
So there you go. There's just a little bit of the dimensions for the Rangers in the home run derby.
Do they have it raised and left at all in left center? For some reason,
that's
I
a great
thought
question.
they did, and I could
That's a
be
great
wrong.
question.
The wall.
Yes, I
Um,
might be wrong, but for
No.
some reason, it's not okay.
nope. The walls look like they are just
Normal walls.
normal walls. Yeah, but
Okay.
there is that sort of area in left center that sort of goes back a little bit. I don't know. Anyway, Bobby Witt will be there. Apparently, Pete Alonso. Now, Alec Boehm and Gunnar Henderson. Gunnar was the first one to agree to do it. So now you get this Gunnar and Bobby rivalry going to another level.
Let's go.
Now we're going to decide who the best shortstop is based on the home run derby on Monday night. So if Gunnar wins, then the argument's over.
You know what? They should have a fielding competition after
no,
that.
why? Gunner's a better defensive player than Bobby Witt. Just ask Orioles fans. Just ask people that don't watch much baseball outside of Baltimore.
I mean, I don't watch Baltimore baseball, so I don't.
Well, you're not watching what Ryan O'Hearn's done this year?
I've heard about it.
God, how is he,
He
not
almost
starting
started.
at first base? I mean,
almost
how is he not
started.
starting at first base for the
Name.
American League? I
It
mean,
was,
good
it was
guy.
at two first basemen, him and Ryan Mountcastle.
Yeah.
In fairness, he is OPS in
Dude, he's
812
been
this year.
good.
He's been
like
good.
he's actually been good. Like we joke around about it, but the joke is that like he went to Baltimore and he's discovered his spot. Like he's figured out what the heck he's doing. He got out of the Royals organization.
He's slashing 285, 344, 467
Yeah. I
with
mean,
11 home runs. Well, the Royals do need a, DH, corner outfielder. Just throw him out in right field, call it a day, huh?
I don't know. Just maybe there's just a different aura with him around here. Just maybe, like Jason said, he found his spot.
yeah, absolutely.
Zorro.
He's being used that way. Maybe that organization in terms of development, whatever it might be. Again, he was with the Royals in the previous regime.
He's in an awesome lineup, too, so he sees a lot of
Yeah.
pitches.
Like, I don't know, would he be doing the same thing if he stayed around with the Royals last year with the new hitting coaches and everything? I don't know. Maybe last year was the changeover. He played under the previous regime's hitting coaches and development. And now he goes to Baltimore, a good organization, and he, is hitting, pretty well. So there you go. The Royals get 4 All-Stars and their 49th win on the 1-year anniversary of Taylor Swift's Eras Tour.
That's just
Huge.
too eerie.
It's
Right?
2 eras.
If
It's too
Hollywood
eerie.
read that in the script, they'd be like, no way.
To Disney. We need a parent to die. If we're gonna do this, there needs to be tragedy to start this movie off with. Okay, something bad needs to happen. Yeah. So there you go. We'll take a time out. We'll come back. Learned, funniest, and best. Coming up next. All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Sterling Holmes, Mick Schaefer, Dylan Michaels, heading up until 2 o'clock. Let's get some Learn Funniest Best in here. What we learned from the weekend, funniest from the weekend, the best from the weekend. You know what I learned? And I learned it not necessarily this, there was a lot of things that I learned because we were off for 4 days. But a lot of things I learned, but I really learned it this morning. I learned that I'm running for Senate in District 35 in Kansas. So I'm pumped about that.
Wait, you're just going to be a state senator or U.S.?
State.
Oh,
So
my
District
God.
35. Yeah, I'm starting the campaign, and I'm starting. It's really District 35, and then the White House, and then I'm thinking District 35 West Wing is like my next. That's the logical progression, right? Like, I figured I'd throw my name in the hat. I'm over 35. Like, if Biden's going to drop out, then I'll just run on. Because independent, there's no chance I'm going to win. Third party, I'm not going to win. I got to be a member of some party to be able to win. Okay, so I'll just join a party so I can actually win. You know?
And if you're independent, you already missed your chance at the first debate on Twitter.
That's a
where you
great
could,
point.
Yeah.
That's a really
participate without actually participating.
Actually, that would have been great for me to actually
That
have
would've been
some.
actually hilarious,
They
yeah.
actually debate back and forth with the debate that's going on
We'll
TV.
do the next one. We'll do the next one. It'll be on 810's Twitter.
But yeah, Jason Anderson is running for Kansas Senate District 35. I've got about 10 people that have sent me the picture of his campaign signs that are out. So yeah, I went to a website, J4KS, and learned all about me.
Hopefully you don't have to go up against Zach Thomas. It's going to be really tough. A lot of Dolphins fans around here.
That's a great point.
Texas
Yes.
Tech people, too.
Yeah, that's true.
Is
Yeah.
this the time to tell you that I am going to run against you?
Well, that's fine. Yeah, I mean, you're going to get destroyed. So, and I'm not going to give you equal time on the air. Sorry, it's not necessarily how it works. I mean, is that why you're going to run so you can get equal time on the air?
Thought that might be my chance.
That's a great point. Now that is smart strategy. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and drop out of the race now, knowing how smart that is, because now I don't have to give you equal time if I'm out of the race. So,
Dang it.
well done. Yeah, I learned that and about 10 other things. But Sterling, what'd you learn?
Yeah, I learned a lot too. But the thing I thought was the most fascinating was I'll actually pose 2 questions for you guys and
Great.
see if anyone can get
7
this.
and no. Those are my answers.
Wow. Who has the best win-loss percentage in Royals baseball history?
7.
Pitcher?
It's pitcher. Yeah.
Seth Lugo.
I'm gonna go with those older. How about Kevin Apier?
Seth Lugo.
Apier is 10th.
No,
Seth
close.
Lugo.
He's not on the.
How about who's the guy that has 2 no hitters?
Busby?
Busby.
He's
Oh,
8th.
dang it.
I'm asking because no one's probably gonna
Saberhagen?
get it. Saberhagen
Well,
was
I mean,
5th.
what's the minimum
Dennis
number of
Leonard.
starts?
I whatever it is on
Quisenberry.
Baseball Reference. You have to have either 500 innings pitched or 50 decisions required.
It's like something like Soria, something like that.
It is Jason Vargas.
Vargy.
Vargas,
not who I
the
would've guessed.
all-time, and who has
He
the
pitched 500 innings for the Royals.
apparently, and who has the most strikeouts per 9 innings for a Royals starter?
Grinky.
Greinke's 9th.
Apier.
Oh,
Apier's 10th.
Whoa, okay, well, that was terrible. Vargas. No, I mean, clearly, it's obviously not.
3rd, it was Jacob Junis.
of course.
2nd is Ian Kennedy.
Is it? Well, hold on.
Wait,
is
what?
it Reagan's?
Really?
Not enough innings. 1st is Brady Singer,
Okay.
all-time Royals leader in strikeouts per 9 innings.
God, how bad have Royals pitchers been
well,
in their history? Good God.
well, they weren't
Greinke?
strikeout
I'm just
pitchers.
joking.
But he
Greinke was
just had
9th.
too big of a sample size there, probably.
Yeah. So
And he struggled those first couple years.
Ks per
Interesting,
9.
okay.
So I learned those things and thought they were just wild. So
They're
Yeah.
wild.
No, that is wild. The win-loss percentage, Vargy, and then Al Fitzmaurice, Larry Gura, Steve Farr,
Fitzy.
Sabes, Doug Bird, Dennis Leonard, Steve Busby, Rich Gale, and then Apier.
you thought it was
Apier-
lying, huh? You had to look it
Apier
up
leads
yourself.
all of Royals pitchers in WAR, though. I do know that Apier
Yes.
is a WAR leader. What'd you learn, Mick?
I learned about Zach Brown's body.
Good for you. You just now learning about that?
What?
God, man.
He's destroyed.
Oh.
He is cut up.
Oh, in a good
okay.
way or bad. When you say destroyed, I felt like
Oh, no. Sculpted. So he's not the fat guy with the stocking cap on anymore, right? The what he was back in the day, right? He is chiseled.
He went Rob McElhaney from season like 8 to 9.
He went
whatever those seasons were. When
yeah.
he gained 50 pounds.
Bryson
and then the next year he
DeChambeau,
was yoked.
or the big guy from Remember the Titans, who was also in My Name Is Earl. He's yoked up now, right?
How about that?
Who is from My Name Is Earl? Which guy?
The brother,
Yeah.
the bigger
Earl?
dude. No, the brother, or his brother.
I know exactly what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
then
I just
the
can't
big
put a
guy
name
from
on it. Yep.
from Remember the Titans.
Oh wow, you're right.
I know.
He's going on tour with a full gym in a semi truck.
Dude, he wore this black tank top for good reason. And so I also learned about his body. He's got tats all over, right?
Yeah.
And we're a long way away, 100 yards, but like the screens are there and everything. And like, whose face is on his left arm? There's somebody's face. And I joke, I'm like, that looks like Teddy Roosevelt. And sure enough, my buddy looks it up. He's got a giant tattoo of Teddy Roosevelt on his left shoulder.
This looks
Because
like
it's one of his heroes. He loves
Jimi
Teddy.
Hendrix, though. On the
Roosevelt.
right
Well,
bicep.
I was talking about left. So, way to crack that case.
That's not Teddy Roosevelt. That's Jimi Hendrix. That's not.
Are you really doing this?
That's not a moon. It's a space station.
Yeah, I don't know if there's other ones, but he has a big old tattoo of Teddy Roosevelt. We looked up. There's an article on how he's read so many books, Sterling.
Oh, there you go.
On Teddy. He's one of his heroes and all that. And the Zac Brown band name origin somehow dates back to something about Teddy Roosevelt.
Oh, I thought his name was Zac Brown.
So did I. I don't know how they. Maybe Teddy Roosevelt had a band of merry men. He was a fighter, right? So there you go. Our youngest president, too, by the way, Teddy.
That is amazing. That is absolutely Teddy Roosevelt right there. That is. Do you see it now? It's clear as day.
I don't know if he has all the Rushmore guys on his body.
What if he did? Just
Got a quarter of them, though.
Looks like
25%. Not
looks
bad.
like a bald eagle on his left collarbone down to the top of his left pec,
Yeah.
upper pectoralis. So there you go. All right. So we learned about Zac Brown's tattoos.
His whole body, yeah.
And he is yoked. You're right about that, man.
Jeez. Well done.
What'd you learn, Dylan?
I learned that Greg Olson has a great time at weddings, and you should potentially invite him. Here's the picture. It's from Jimmy Trina's Twitter account via Olivia Culpo's Instagram account. Sorry,
Okay.
by way.
By way of a TikTok?
There you go. Here's
As
the
seen on
picture. I'm just
Instagram.
showing it to you guys, comparing him to Christian McCaffrey.
That's right.
Buttons are all asort. The hair is everywhere. Christian, obviously, the main event, basically the wedding, is still looks good. He has to make the rounds.
It was
but,
his wedding? He got married?
Yeah, it was McCaffrey's
him
wedding.
and
Okay.
Olivia Culpo, and then Greg was there, and he had a good time. So
I saw the picture, and somebody said, "You should look like Greg Olson
That's- yeah.
at a wedding reception."
that's
Every time.
That's Jimmy Trina.
What,
Yep.
wow,
That's
why
what
is
it
this
was.
weird?
Yeah. This is
Got the 1,000-mile
yes.
stare. Yep.
Greg Olson is how you should look at a wedding reception.
If you have a vest on, you take the shirt off underneath and put the vest back on.
Yes. Yes.
I know this guy's
Yep.
doing it.
Oh,
no,
many,
he's not,
many a time.
He's not putting the
He's,
vest
he's
back
not
on.
putting the vest back
Well,
on.
just the cut
just got the bow tie.
Bow
the
tie
party boy.
and cummerbund. You got to put the cummerbund back on.
Party boying it up. All right, the funniest for you, Sterling, from the weekend.
Jason texted to remind me to sign in for my flight,
Oh.
and I'm actually ahead of him. Like he reminded me, hey, don't
Did you guys do
forget
the
to
early
sign
bird?
in.
It's an early bird. It's like 15 more bucks.
I'm B15. I'm fine. I'm
and
B15.
the
baby.
station's paying for it, right?
B19. You know.
No,
I just thought it was funny
that's
that
still
he texted to remind me,
still might
and
be
I
middle seat.
beat him.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fine.
Quick hands.
So, was that what it was?
Bam, bam.
Bam, bam.
Pow! Pow!
You saying pow?
You saying paw or pow? Pow! Pow! Is that Pam or Pan? I think I can help with
the
this
whole
Pan
Pan
thing.
dilemma.
All right, what was the funniest for the weekend for you, Mick?
So a Rangers fan going to catch a foul ball. Speaking of, that's a home Rangers game.
Was it fan interference?
It's not because there's a net there. He tried to. From up top, he jumps onto the dugout and then just jumps into the net. And you don't really see the net from the up top, so it looks like he's just suspended out over the dugout. And eventually, he gets sprung right back to his spot on the dugout. He spills his beer all over the place. Comes nowhere close to catching the ball.
The ball lands in the second row.
It does, and then he starts high-fiving his fans before being ejected. Here's the call from
Yes.
one of the announcers.
Popped up. Foul ground. Long run for Heim. Nobody's going to get there. Whoa, that fan. What is he doing?
Fan.
What is that clown doing? After after the foul ball ended up on the screen, lost most of his beverage. Yeah, time for Cha-Cha to go.
Time for Cha-Cha, the clown, to go. And he went.
Oh, man.
It, like, spit him out. Like
It
when
did.
When you go to, like, putt golf and you hit it into the clown mouth and it throws your golf ball out, it's almost that where the net threw him back.
It was like he was on a high wire act at the
Yeah.
circus, and he goes out and throws him right back up, almost all the way to the high wires.
And landing on his feet. Ta-da!
Ta-da! He starts high-fiving his friend.
But he jumps on the dugout and the ball lands like
Yes,
right
he's
around
nowhere
where
near.
he would have been
Like,
standing.
When I first saw it, I'm like, oh, he caught that? That's amazing. Oh, no, nowhere near catching that.
What are you doing? And then he got up and was like, yeah, high-fiving his friend because he was so embarrassed. And then he was like, why am I getting kicked out? Yeah, I don't know why. I'm not really sure why you're
They
getting
got
kicked out
booed,
there, buddy.
but he was the hero for the moment. But
Can't
he
imagine why
enjoyed the
you're
rest of
getting
the game.
kicked out. What was the funniest for you, Dylan?
I know I'm picking some great radio content here
Good.
by selecting pictures only of my funniest and best.
It's great.
It's a little topical with our replay conversation. NESN had a replay, and they also wanted to slip in an advertisement during it. And look where the Chevy Silverado decided to park right where the catcher's mitt and the runner's sliding was
God.
meeting, so that it completely blocks the view
The
for all
replay?
the fans. Yep.
Like, what am I supposed to see? Yeah, but it's great product placement, though.
I agree.
Perfect. That's getting
Totally agree.
Now you're getting a lot of impressions with that. My funniest, since I'm going last, I'm going to play a couple of them here.
Okay.
My funniest. We'll start with the Chicago Sky Zoom post-game press conference with Angel Reese, Marina Mabry, and then the coach Teresa Weatherspoon. And in some of these Zooms, oftentimes, especially with the Chiefs, it'll be and Brad will have a follow-up.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you can't hear the follow-up because they forget to unmute the person because they immediately mute them. Whoever's running the Chicago Sky Zoom was not good at muting other people. Here's what happened with the Chicago Sky Zoom press conference postgame.
Being in the same conversation
Ever going to happen into my relationship? I'm sorry, the last part cut off because something.
That's an uncomfortable topic.
Excuse me?
Can some?
I
didn't hear. I'm sorry.
Can you repeat your question, Jordan? We have some background noise.
In being intimate with anyone.
Someone
told
now.
you they were being weird on that.
Yeah, somebody's
Somebody's
microphone is on.
Hey,
And then they mute everybody for like 5 seconds.
sorry,
And then
Jordan.
now everybody comes back.
So Angel, I know you would have preferred the win, but of course you surpassed Candace Parker for the most consecutive double-doubles. As someone who you've modeled your game after, just talk about the importance of being.
So there you go. I wasn't interested in being intimate with anyone.
That's an uncomfortable topic.
It was like but in the background, it was like a girl that at the beginning says something about our relationship, and then you hear the guy go, well, "That's uncomfortable conversation." I heard the uncomfortable conversation.
No.
I thought he was
talking about the question.
The question, and
Yeah.
he was just like, well, "That's an uncomfortable question to ask her." Like, oh, whoops. No, it was like some dude and a girl are just having a conversation that in the middle of the Zoom press conference, he's like just talking about somebody's relationship, and they didn't mute it.
How have we not learned? How are we still making that mistake?
Unbelievable. The pandemic should have showed us all when people were getting fired with what was going on.
I
in the
check
Zooms
10 times a minute to make sure
Yeah,
I'm muted.
as you should.
Yeah.
As you should. The other funny from the weekend was the Rob Riggle podcast called Oh, I'm sorry. Was this? Never mind. I'm not going to do it then.
Thank you.
I'm not going to do it then.
Thank you.
If that
Appreciate
was your
it.
best, I'm not going to do
Especially
it.
your second one. What are we
Well, like
playing
I said-
fast and loose with the rules here?
Well, like I started off by saying since I'm last, I'm just going to go ahead and give a couple of funniest since people didn't
You're
use it.
last for this.
For
For
funniest.
funniest. There could be best still.
Right. I'm not going to use it then. So we will start with you, Mick Schaefer. You're the starting with the best.
Mine's off the board. It's actually something Olympics, actually. No, I'm joking. It's a Rob Riggle.
Don't worry, I've got this audio as well.
This is Patrick Mahomes on the Rob Riggle podcast here.
Like even the most annoying questions, you always handle it very professional. But do you ever go back in the locker room and start punching a wall? Like I feel like it would drive me nuts.
No, it does. It's part of it. It's part of the profession. It's part of being a quarterback and having to stand on that podium and talk, win or loss. And
yeah.
I think what I've done and I've mastered is being able to say a lot of words without saying anything at all. And so that's my go-to. Whenever I get a question that I might necessarily like, I'll just say a lot of different words. And it really means nothing. So
all right,
let's what they need.
Let's run it right now. Ready?
Genius.
Yep.
Patrick, it was a great game out there. You guys really tried, and you came up short. So, what are your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, I mean, it's always great to get out there and do whatever you can to try to find a way to get a win. But at the same time, it's not always going to go your way. And so for us, it's about going back to the drawing board, putting in the work, and then seeing what we can do next week.
That was a master class. I know. I got to get up and walk that off.
We've heard that 25 times. How many losses does he have in his career?
The only thing he's missing from that is what it actually would have sounded like was, it has to start with I mean, and then get into your answer about what happened. But I mean, we knew that's what took place, but at least we now have evidence that this is planned and it's strategy. Yeah. Smart.
All that was missing there was Matt Derrick at the end saying, okay.
No, Teicher.
Teicher too. And so
22 times.
Yeah.
Okay.
22 times. 74 times it's been the opposite.
22 regular season
only,
so
22.
So 25 exactly, right? Because he's got 3 losses in the playoffs. Look at that. Guess Mickey.
Yeah, I mean, and then you answer.
Do you call yourself Mickey?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Mickey, you're so... No, Tony Basil.
Oh, that's a sick burn. Never heard that.
Totally sick. Dylan, what was the best for you from the weekend?
Another photo, but everyone has seen this. The Yankees did a bobblehead giveaway over the weekend, and it was a George Costanza bobblehead, and it is titled Assistant to the Traveling Secretary at the bottom, of course, and it's the scene where he's hitting with Derek Jeter.
Yep.
And I think, was it Bernie Williams as well?
Yep.
So that's my
We
best.
need to get you on TV with all these visual references you have.
I know. There is a stream, and you don't even have it on your pictures.
Right. Yeah.
People are like, you got a video. It's like,
yeah, they can see this for sure, right?
No, they can't. You'd have to do the solo of yours, of you back there. You'd have to solo just the one. Is that a one?
Yep.
Is that a one shot?
One shot. No miss.
Single. It's single. Yeah, you got it. Yeah.
Okay, you got the one shot. There you go.
Yeah,
See,
it's clear.
Got it.
It's very clear.
Right, there you go. In case people don't have Twitter or the internet themselves, they can look at the picture there through their computer screen. I have a couple of bests because, damn it, there were 4 days. We had 4 days, Mick. How do you have one best from 4 days? How do you have one funniest from 4 days?
I barely had 3. I barely had 3.
3 bests, and then all of a sudden I hear Dylan in my ear, 30 seconds.
What's
30 seconds.
You give your best first, Sterling.
Oh, now we're just changing the rules.
Yes.
I know, man. Jeez, I feel uncomfortable.
Ad-libbing.
All right, Mick, you can stand up for this one because I'm also doing a
Whoa,
visual.
okay, what's your best?
Where do I point?
Your best is Mick standing up? All right.
Mick's shirt.
Unlike you, I'm going to keep my shirt on.
Your best from the weekend happened
This shirt took
ago?
over everything I had because Mick's shirt is a Dolly Parton shirt that says "Forever."
It's this right here, Mick.
Dolly. It's Dolly Parton on a bar stool, hugging a guitar, acoustic guitar, lovingly. It's just a strong shirt, and I would wear that. There's a butterfly for some reason after Dolly. It's trademarked.
Why wouldn't it
actually?
This is a trademark butterfly. Isn't it?
So,
maybe that's her thing.
I mean, Forever Dolly
that's
Parton.
her thing. My best
Forever
from
Dolly.
the weekend was I had a couple bests from the weekend.
Great shirt.
Wednesday night. So when the weekend started.
Oh my goodness, for you guys.
Wednesday night, MLB Network was doing their rounds, and MLB Network did a live look-in of the Royals game, and this is what it sounded like with one of the catches of the year by Kyle Lisbell.
And when you have a strength like that, that looks like it could carry you, like this ball being carried, oh my goodness! That is unbelievable! First live looking of the night!
That's like Jim Edmonds, Gary Matthews Sr. all wrapped into one, right?
Isbell! His face hit the wall. Isbell's face collided with the wall on this play.
This could be, you were just talking about, this could be one of those gains and catches that propel them into the All-Star break with some momentum.
I thought that too.
That is fire. Wow.
It could.
I thought that too.
They
Yeah.
lost the next 3 games, but that could have been. He did say could. This could be. But they did a live look-in for the first time.
That's hilarious.
And that was
That's
the
great.
live look-in.
I didn't know I could go back to Wednesday night to count that. That would have been my
I
best.
said it was a long weekend.
Oh my gosh.
And then my other best, you can have that one as your best too. My other best was, obviously, in Amsterdam, Kelsey crying to Taylor Swift singing the song to him. That was, it's because he's getting ready to leave the tour and have to come back, and they're not going to see each other for like a month and a half.
Wow, you really know their schedules.
So
That's
you
crazy
know,
to me. Are you
it's my best.
their schedule?
Are you
guy?
the assistant to the travel secretary?
No, I'm Chris Farley in Wayne's World.
Mr.
So we're gonna
Big?
go to Milwaukee,
yeah.
and then we're gonna. There's a lot of information for a security guard. That's a lot of information he provided of where they're going.
Knows about Mr. Big, huh?
That's right. Well done. But yeah, so that was it was a very very touching moment. Brittany came over to check on him, as he's wiping tears away.
Spears?
That's right. She was there. She's now allowed out of the house, so that's great.
She's out of her conservatorship.
That's right.
She's in a liberal ship.
I thought she was in an independent ship. So she
might have that debate.
She's an independent
Ralph
ship.
Nader-esque.
She's been libertarianed.
Yes.
So she's a freedom fighting to live her life.
I can't think of how to get Ross Perot
and she
in there.
she can control her bank account, so it's green party for her.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about the dollar signs.
She's not wigging out anymore.
Brit T.
Oh, you should have gone to break on mix.
Party. Well, I was sort of waiting for the break. I blame Dylan, really? WHB, Jason Anderson with you, Sterling Holmes, Mick Schaefer, Dylan Michaels, heading up until 2 o'clock. Little best of coming your way at 6 o'clock. So we're in Petro. The program comes up next. We're going to check with New York on a replay, and they're coming back and saying there was no show for the last 4 hours. In fact, there was not a show.
There was not that. The kid wasn't even there, actually. He did
dead air.
not. That was a ghost kid
Yes.
that reached over.
Stands. Call stands.
The man and the kids didn't exist. In fact, that game didn't even take place. Didn't even play. I think the Royals should have played the rest of the game under protest. You walk up to home plate, you put your $100 down, right? Isn't that how you protest typically?
Is that how it works?
Put $100 down in like Little League, right? Something like that. And then play the game under protest.
You actually glue your hand to home plate for protest.
Yes.
You
Those climate protests, you're out in the middle of the road.
You chain yourself to the umpire's leg. Harumph. I'm not moving until we get a overturn of this call.
Contreras, they're sitting there on I-70.
You're just standing out in left center. No, I'm not moving. And then the security guards are like, what do we do? Because he's not a fan. Like, he's not, like,
we can't tase him. We can't.
Like, he's the manager, but he's not moving. What do we do here?
The entire Royals coaching staff storms the 18th green at the John Deere Classic.
That's right.
They throw their smoke bombs and everything.
They come out and they throw paint on the pitcher's mound. Like,
T-shirts.
Take that. Take that, blue. So yeah, that's the replay has really been working well for Major League Baseball.
Really
and
good
soccer,
stuff.
honestly. After watching the VAR against USA and now against the Royals, I've convinced there's a vendetta against.
Well, the worst one was the VAR with Colombia when they identified the wrong player.
Yeah,
they did the VAR red line, and it was like, yeah, see, he was over it, but that wasn't the player that had the header. The other one was onside. Like, you used the wrong player to rule it was
It's like they should just get rid of that rule. Makes me so much easier.
I can't wait for Cole Reagan's next start just to see what replay happens. Yeah. Like, what takes place on replay? I don't know. What could it be? We should all before.
How often are games played under protest in Major League Baseball these days?
Well, I mean, Pine Tar game.
Well, okay, was that the last one?
But that was also in the.
How often?
I mean,
once.
That was also in the 9th inning. So it's like we can go back and. This would have been all right. Let's go back to the 2nd inning with 1 out in the 2nd inning, 1-0. Oh, and Reagan's, you're back on the mound. A little different. They should have done it though.
Totally
it's only right.
Yeah.
Just follow the rules. That's all.